right, everybody, here we go. Today is Thursday, July 16th, 2026. My name is Rob Carter. Welcome to the future. #1 radio / podcast in America. What's going on, Isaiah?
Morning.
I was
How's
looking at the
everyone doing?
screen, and again, I don't understand what happens in the world. Now, all of a sudden, one side looks darker than the other, and nothing has changed. I don't touch anything. It's the weirdest situation in the
You
world.
went tanning.
I didn't go tanning. I have the lights exactly the way they are, and now I have one side that's darker than the other. Nothing has changed. Nothing has moved. Nothing is different. I do not understand what is happening to my set. What is going on? It's the bugs. We got something going on.
It's
Let
the
me get-
cameras.
Yeah, I
told
got a lot to get through though, Isaiah, and I know you have something you want to talk about as well. That kind of blends into the show. But let me start with this. I got some criticism from, I think, 3 people. You got one yesterday. A couple people gave me criticism on something. And I listen to criticism. I'm not somebody who knee-jerk reacts to criticism as the, wait a minute, I got to defend myself all the time. But I want to get this out of the way very quickly because it kind of relates to the story we're going to tell today. So some of the criticism I heard on local radio shows, that are pay attention to what I have to say. And they didn't mention me by name, but I think it was aimed at me. And it said, that people that are talking about Lindsey Graham being gay, they never said he was gay when he was alive. Well, I don't know if that's true necessarily. I certainly did. I think there's a lot of people that are secretly gay in our government. And I want to talk about that today because it may be the reason that we don't have full control of our government. And I'm going to talk about Kay Griggs and her story today. But let me answer the criticism before we get into it. Some of the criticism was that I was basically tap dancing on the grave of Lindsey Graham. Look, I looked it up before I even talked about it, and I went to, I went to AI, a couple AI forums, and I said, does Jesus say anything about ridiculing people who have died? And the answer was no. Right? So there's no Bible verse that says, you can't do that. When somebody dies, you can't say anything negative about them. I think Lindsey Graham is a monster, an absolute and total monster. That's the way I see him. And I was at dinner with my son and my father last night, and my dad said, you said you were going to play a couple clips when you were talking to Isaiah. And he said, Isaiah came in and then you guys never came back to it. So I want to explain, because I talked through about these clips, but we didn't play them. Mm-hmm. I want to play these first, and then I want to talk about Kay Griggs, the Masons, Zionism, and homosexuality. She did an interview, almost an 8-hour interview back in 1996. It says 1998 on, if you look it up on YouTube, it'll say 1998. It was actually in 1996, as I understand it. And her husband, a guy by the name of George Griggs, went to Princeton, one of my club schools. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. He went to Princeton, and he was in the intelligence services. He was an alcoholic. He was very well connected across the entire globe. He kept a very detailed diary, as did she. And in this interview, she walks through decades of passages within her diary, things that she had learned. She's a very bright woman. Her undergraduate degree, I think it was her undergraduate degree, she might even say it in one of these clips, was in Virginia history. So the founding fathers, the history of our country, she knows a lot about it. And she has that frame of reference as she starts to learn about what's going on in the world from her alcoholic husband, who was tied very, very tightly woven into the American military intelligence services. And I think one of the reasons that I have trouble connecting with certain people is I have a base of knowledge that I believe, you don't have to believe it, but a base of knowledge that I understand and believe and can see it play out right before my very eyes that 99.9% of the world has no idea about because of the indoctrination of our schools, the infiltration of our media, and just general culture in general. We are, it's bread and circus all the time, right? So this is how we live our lives nowadays. But there's really no foundational understanding of what's going on in our world. We don't even ask the questions anymore. So long as we can eat, so long as we have air conditioning, so long as we have a somewhat comfortable life, nobody cares about history. Nobody cares about how we got to this place. Nobody cares how the world works. Nobody knows who's running the world. Nobody knows anything. They think that Donald Trump is running the world because that's what Fox News and CNN and our television sets tell us. But the reality is much deeper. When we had the guy on, CJ Grisham, just the other day, in the course of conversation, he's from Texas. He said that he was in the intelligence services. And I said, well, hang on here. This is my understanding of the world. I believe that the money makers, the people that print the money, they run the world, the bankers, And then the intelligence services it's a global operation, but the intelligence services keep that structure in place. That's why a lot of people think you're always fighting over the dollar because it's the currency that you're actually trying to protect. And did he not agree with me, Isaiah? He agreed with me. I said, okay, well, then I'm, at least I don't, one person out there in the world that has been in the intelligence services doesn't think that I'm crazy. The people that print the money run the world. The governments around the world are primarily just puppet governments. This is what Kay Griggs tried to explain all the way back in 1996. Now, she did this interview for 7 or 8 hours, and then she disappeared from the planet. Nobody knows if she's alive or dead. She just disappeared. She gave all of this information. She did an 8-hour interview with people like Isaiah and I. Only about 100,000+ people have even seen the interview. If you go to YouTube where it's posted, I think it's about 100,000 people have seen it. So we're going to walk through just pieces of it today. It's Kay Griggs part 1. I'm going to talk about Kay Griggs a lot because I listened to it again yesterday in the car and before I went to bed. And it so fascinates me, her information, that I just want to share it so people have an understanding of where I'm coming from. So the number one, the Bible doesn't tell me that I can't ridicule Lindsey Graham. I don't really like Lindsey Graham. I don't think you should like Lindsey Graham. And let me give you a couple more reasons why. I did not play these clips the other day when we did 50 Shades of Gay with Lindsey Graham, right? It was just kind of a tongue-in-cheek title to get people's attention about Lindsey Graham. And as I tried to explain in that show, the reason it's important that he's gay is because of what Kay Griggs tried to explain. She also says the mafia. How many times have I said the government is a mafia? It's literally a mafia. And she explains that in 1996 as well and gives you plenty of examples of the people that were involved in our government, in our courts, that are just mafia members. Families go way back in organized mafias, right? So let me play this clip first. Let's just get this out of the way. Let's just talk clip number 3, Isaiah. This is an interview that Lindsey Graham did. And this is the one that should make the hair on the back of your neck stand up if you have the ability to have empathy anymore. A lot of people don't have it. They just don't see it. As we've said before, once you get desensitized to something, once you can watch, and I fully admit it happened to me, Isaiah. Didn't we talk about it? I said, when I first saw the first Gulf War and I was cheering on bombs dropping on a civilization, in my mind, it was like a video game. I'm 21 years old, 1991. I'm sitting over in Creve Coeur, Missouri, and I'm watching on CNN the very first Gulf War. It was the first time I had seen war televised. And as you're watching the war, you're seeing these bombs just drop on Baghdad. These big bombs going off. And I'm cheering it on. I remember being with a couple buddies of mine. I'm like, oh my God, look at this. Look at the American power. These guys, whatever they did. I remember they invaded Kuwait and therefore we had to go to war and destroy all of their people, right? In retrospect, I think I was a moron. Myself, I look back at my younger life and I think, what an imbecile I was. Here we are dropping bombs on human beings and cheering it on without really any understanding of why we're doing it other than what CNN or Fox News told us was the reason. And now I know that Fox News and CNN is a ridiculous joke, which we'll get to in here in just a minute. But let's play clip number 1. This is Lindsey Graham doing an interview, and he's talking about flattening the people of Gaza.
You said clip number 3. Do you want 3 or 1?
Number 3.
Okay.
I apologize. Thanks, Isaiah. Number 3. Check it out.
Few years since October 7th, many people in this part of the world say what happened in Gaza does not align with Christian values. Killing children, killing mothers,
I'll be honest
killing
with
families
you.
who are not militants.
Yeah, I don't buy that at all.
Why?
Because what did we do in World War II? Did we think 1 minute about starving the Germans? Did we bomb every city into smithereens? So this is a war.
No, October 7th to World War II.
Yes, I am. This is an absolute existential threat to the Jewish people. What happened on October the 7th was 1,200 people were slaughtered, raped, and murdered and filmed by radical Islamists who would kill every Jew if they could, to the world. If you don't understand this is a threat to Israel's
survival. And then
survival,
they flattened Gaza.
Just flatten it. We flattened Berlin. We flattened Tokyo. Were we wrong to drop an atomic bomb to end the Japanese reign of terror? Were we? So my view, if I were Israel, I would have probably done it the same way. Without military victory, there is no hope of breaking radicalism. We flattened Germany. We flattened Japan.
How many Americans
Wait a
believe
minute.
this?
Out of that,
how many Americans think the way that you do?
I think most Republicans think the way I do.
I agree.
Even young ones.
Yeah, you're just out of touch if you don't understand Republicans when it comes to radical Islam. is on Israel's side. It's not even close.
And I think, just as somebody who has watched this happen, I believe that to be true.
Yeah. I heard on
We can't understand it, but I believe it to be true.
Yeah, NPR this morning said that I guess only like 20% of people they polled approve of the war. However, when they speak to Republicans, they say even if they don't necessarily approve of the war, they'll acknowledge the the argument points that they present, right? But they trust Trump, and so that's kind of their they trust Trump, whatever he's telling them, however he's interpreting it and giving that message to them. That's what Republicans are believing, and they're willing to trust in that versus
questioning anything,
or taking these facts that they're putting forth. They're saying, well, this is how Trump's interpreting those facts, right?
Correct. And I agree with that 100%, just based on my own, radio experience, podcast experience. People get to hear what I have to say. They can criticize it or trust it or believe it, however they want to look at it. I have come to the understanding that most Republicans could care less whether we're bombing anything in the Middle East. They don't even, it does not a second thought to them. Yeah. And I just ask, I've said it before, I don't understand how Christians can look at it through that lens. I just don't understand it. You're being deceived. Your country is lying to you. No different than Nazi Germany. Your country's lying to you. You create aggressive wars all over the world and have been for the last 30, 40, 50 years. At some point, you would think the American population would wake up from the haze and go, if my government's lying to me, if my government wants to stick a needle in my arm for something that they created and funded, and then the people that created, funded, and lied to us day in and day out get a medal of commendation from the Trump administration, maybe, just maybe, the war isn't exactly what they say it is. Maybe we should question this war just a little bit more, but no. If you question it, you're anti-Semitic. If you question it, you're a traitor to the Republican cause. And I'm just telling you, as somebody who's right in the middle of it, that's the way it is. That's just the way it is. Some things will never change. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. Maybe I should just come out and profess the fact that I don't understand the Republican leadership point of view anymore. And I think they're leading their voters, leading their believers off the cliff. It's so frustrating to me that people don't recognize that at some point you have to see the world through the proper lens. And if you believe that bombing people, innocent people, have done absolutely nothing to you, destroying their infrastructure, destroying their drinking water, destroying everything in their lives because of something that our government has sold to us, then I question your sanity at some point, and I ask that you get on your knees and pray about it. How about that? Okay, that's number one. Let's play number two. All right, so this is Lindsey Graham. So somebody on social media said, I said, the reason I am so critical of Lindsey Graham is because he advocates for every war in the world and always has. If there's a war anywhere, if there was, I've said before, if there was a war aimed at Wentzville, Missouri, O'Fallon, Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, Lindsey Graham would say, bomb them, flatten them. That's Lindsey Graham. There's never, in the entire time I've watched, there's never been a war that Lindsey Graham wasn't in favor of. Just think about that. Never. Russia and Ukraine, Israel, Libya. He's mad at China. He was all for Venezuela. When there's a war going on, Lindsey Graham is in favor of it. Now, my point about this is I don't think that Lindsey Graham has his own opinions. I think Lindsey Graham is one of the people that Kay Griggs was trying to explain to us. What Kay Griggs, and we'll get to it here in just a minute, I promise. We'll play several clips from Kay Griggs. What Kay Griggs tried to explain to people before she disappeared from the planet was that the Zionists, the Masons, used homosexuality through decades to infiltrate governments because in their minds, based on a lot of history, I would assume, gay people at a time when it was very unpopular in this country could be filmed and compromised and controlled and then propped up. Got to remember, Lindsey Graham just won an election. And how many times did we play it on the show, Isaiah? This guy, Lindsey Graham, would go out and do speaking engagements and they would boo him off the stage at Republican events. And then he wins the election easy. Donald Trump's going to talk about the elections tonight. I don't know how Lindsey Graham can win an election when the people that are there at Republican events are booing him off the stage multiple different times. Lindsey Graham is not a popular person in South Carolina. There is just, in my opinion, it's very difficult to believe that he could be in power for so long when his own people are booing him off the stage. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's no different than Joe Biden. What you see before your eyes doesn't make sense with the votes, with the outcomes. Okay. Now let's go to something I said yesterday, maybe even the day before, Isaiah. I made the comment that I would, and you have to have an understanding of sarcasm to have any interest in my show. I'm a sarcastic person, but I said I would rather and I think I said 18-year-olds. I said kids. My kids are adults. So when I say my kids are grown people, 33.
Yeah.
Like my youngest is 19. I said I would rather have my kids watch gay porn than Fox News. And I'm doing it clearly as a joke, as sarcasm. And I was trying to explain it to somebody who said, Rob, that was really cringeworthy yesterday. And I had about 3 or 4 people reach out to me and say that. And I want to give you my point of view, and I will stop. I don't want to, my intent is not to offend my listening audience. But the reason I say those types of things is to make sure that you understand the devastation that CNN and Fox News are causing to our society. It is satanic what they are doing to our society. They are creating an environment where if you don't agree with wars that are going on around the world, aggressive wars by the United States of America, if you don't believe in that and you don't fall in line with that, then you're anti-American and you're not patriotic. And I want you to let that go to the top floor just let it sit there for a minute. Just think about that. You have a network. Since I've been watching it, I have watched Fox News from its inception. I was completely addicted to it for 20 years. I watch it morning, noon, and night for 20 years. But for the grace of God, I think I'd still be in that haze. And I have witnessed them on a continual basis combine war with patriotism. War, 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 wave the flag. War, 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 wave the flag. War, 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 wave the flag. They don't tell you any of the news that you need to know. They tell the news through a lens of creating war, creating division, making us hate each other. That's why I said Jim Brewer has it right on the head and why I so align with his views. Comedian Jim Brewer said, if you think you're getting news from corporate news, then you're out of touch with reality. You are getting narratives from corporate news that keep us divided and keep us fighting. And I want you to think about that when I in relation to the comment that I made yesterday. All right. Obviously, it was sarcasm. Obviously, I'm joking. No different than if I say I would rather eat glass than work out 5 times a week. I'd rather eat glass. Well, obviously, I'm not going to eat glass and work out the 5 days a week. It's just complete and total sarcasm. But the idea is to relate to people that have that sense of humor, to have sarcasm. I cannot continually and for always preach to the choir. I've said this to the people at People's Lobby, Missouri, all the time. If I continually preach to the choir, we can't get any more people in our camp. You have to be able to relate to multiple different people. Some people like humor. Some people like very dark humor. I like George Carlin. A lot of people can't stand him. George Carlin was able to use humor to get people to go, maybe he does make sense. Remember George Carlin, everybody?
It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club.
Now, George Carlin was a genius. Did I know he was a genius when I was 25 or 30 years old? No, I didn't. That comedy routine, I actually saw that comedy routine in Las Vegas at Bally's Hotel and Casinos. I saw that exact routine, and I liked it. It didn't strike me as the greatest routine of all time. But now that I understand he's a political commentator and I understand what he was talking about, it makes perfect sense to me. It makes perfect sense. He said it's a big club. It's rich billionaires that get control of your government. They give you all kinds of storylines and narratives to divide us. And we keep, as he thought, keep electing them over and over. But as he got older, he started to recognize the same thing that we talk about on the show. The elections aren't for real. They're either bought, manipulated, or bought and manipulated. Doesn't matter. But you're not getting good, decent people in positions of power in our government. You're just not getting them. And they would never allow it to happen in the first place. Never allow it to happen. There's nothing you could do to break that cycle. Because even if you think you have somebody that you love with all of your heart, you would recognize at some point that things are changing. You'd recognize that they're trying to get rid of the debt. You'd recognize that people are starting to get along together, beginning to speak and talk to one another. But no president in my lifetime has tried to do that. The Republicans have to make the Democrats the demons, and then the Democrats have to make the Republicans the demons. They use those narratives to split us apart, split families apart, split long-lasting relationships apart, friendships, coworkers, everybody. is in constant turmoil because of the news and the narratives that we think we must fight for. And I think people need to understand that to understand where I'm coming from. So when I say I would rather watch my children, I'm talking about my children, my adult children, I'd rather have them watch gay porn than Fox News. Clearly, it's sarcasm, but it is meant to have you recognize, and I think this is where people miss the agenda. People don't see Fox News in those terms, no matter how many times I tell them that. They will never see it through the lens that those people are trying to destroy the fabric of our country, to destroy our unity for profit. War is for profit. Corporate news is for profit. If they were to talk about unifying the country all day long, wouldn't it be a different story? If CNN and Fox News were trying to use the news, pick narratives that brought us together, do you think maybe you wouldn't be fighting with your friends, your relatives, your coworkers at some point? I do. And I'm just sick of it, quite honestly, and I want it to change. So that is where that all comes from. Certainly didn't mean to offend anybody, but I want people to understand that when I say that Fox News is the systematic destruction of intellect in our country, that's what I mean. The systematic destruction of free thinking people in our country, as Edward Bernays said, if you repeat narratives over and over and over, regardless of how ridiculous they are at the end of the day, people will begin to believe them. It is something that goes on with the human psyche. They understand it, they use it, they perpetuate it, and here we are continually fighting with one another. Okay, let's leave that there.
I think of Fox News kind of like Voice of America, essentially, is where we're at now.
Yeah, there's nothing America could do. If America dropped nuclear bombs on Venezuela, if they dropped nuclear bombs on anywhere, you just name a place, nuclear bombs in China.
And Voice for America, for those who don't know, that's Tucker Carlson's dad, who
correct
Bush ran Bush propaganda news organization for the American government. So
exactly,
that's exactly how I feel about Fox News right now.
Can I get an amen?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and you can't get people to see that, Isaiah. People think that I'm insane to even to say it. And I'm like, well, how long does it take to get a master's degree? 8 years?
I think with your bachelor's, yeah. I think you can get one shorter. It just depends on the type of master's.
6 to 8 years, basically, to get a master's, right? Okay, 6 to 8 years to get a master's. I watched Fox News morning, noon, and night for 20 years. Do you think I have an understanding of Fox News, Isaiah?
Oh, yeah.
I have an understanding of what Fox News is trying to do. And now I won't even let it on my television. I almost don't even watch clips of it anymore, because I understand that if I dive in to their narratives, I get sucked up into a cycle. It's like putting your foot into a tornado, hoping that you don't get blown away. And that's why I tell everybody that will listen to me, even if it's entertainment, even if you think there's something coming good out of Fox News, it's not. The producers and the people that write the script for Fox News, and everybody that left it has said the same thing. Everybody that left Fox News says the exact same thing about Fox News. The people that are gone from it, Judge Napolitano, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Clayton Morris, there's probably more. They all say the same thing that I'm saying now. And I ask you out there, if you're one of these people, if somebody said, I'll give you $2.5 million a year to read the script that we put in front of you and sell it with zest, would you do it? Because if you wouldn't do it, somebody is in line to do it. And those are the frauds on Fox News, in my humble opinion. That is why you see people leaving the Republican Party and going right to Fox News. That's why you see people leaving the Democrat Party and going right to CNN. How can you distinguish what news is when the political parties run the station? They're one and the same. It's not news if it comes through the lens of one political party, which you happen to know, if you have any sense at all. Both of them are as corrupt as can be. You couldn't have a government that was looking out for you and be $40 trillion in debt and tax everything in your life. We went to war for freedom on a minor taxes. Now they tax everything. And jokingly, my dad said he drove into the river yesterday when he heard me say, when he heard who was it? Ray McCarty, when he said it's tax on tax.
Yeah.
And I've joked about that for 5 years. I said, the only thing the government hasn't taxed yet is your taxes. And I've jokingly said it. I said, at some point, they're going to figure out a way to tax you on your taxes. We're talking to Ray McCarty, who's been around the tax game in Missouri for 40 years. And he said, this is essentially a tax on your tax. And I said, wait a minute, hang on right there. My dad said, as soon as he said that, he goes, I knew you would jump in. And I said, exactly. I said, it's just incredible. When they run out of things to tax, they tax everything. I mean, what don't they tax? They tax your income. They tax your groceries. They tax your resources. They tax your energy. They tax your home, your property. Everything that you need has a tax applied to it. The only thing left is to tax the taxes themselves. And according to Ray McCarty, that is what Amendment 5 does. It allows for the tax on your taxes themselves. It is absolutely incredible what goes on in our country. And I just wish more people would have an understanding of what we are living through, because it is moving in a direction drip by drip by drip. I always tell people that say, Rob, I don't really understand how this all works. And I said, if I got into the details, it would take you years and years and years to walk through the details of how everything happens, because when you witness something for a long time, you understand it really well. But when it's really complex and it takes a long time to explain it. But let me explain it to you like this. Just imagine you are in a plot of land. Let's say that you like basketball. Okay, basketball is your thing. And you've got 10 basketball courts out in a field, and you're all playing basketball every day because you like to play basketball. And you're looking around the basketball courts, and people are starting to build prison bars. And they're building them, and they're stacking them, and they're starting to, they're moving from one section to the other, and they're building this prison. And you're playing basketball because you love basketball, and you're having a good old time. And the prison gets built and built and built. And it's taken a long time, right? They're building it on this edge. They're building on that edge. They're starting to build around the entire exterior of your basketball courts, and you're having a good time. It's sunshine out. The weather's perfect. You're enjoying a little basketball, a little competition with your friends, and they're building that prison piece by piece by piece by piece. And at some point, they're going to put the roof on that prison. You are going to be never paying attention to it because you're focused on the basketball game. And then there's that one click, boom, and you're in the prison, and there's no way to get out. And that is what is happening, not only in America, but around the world. It's not fear mongering. People go, Rob, you're selling fear. I said, no, I'm selling awareness. If you think that's fear, that's a different story. I'm not afraid of anything. Even if they build a prison around us, it'll be what it'll be. Me and Jesus are going to walk hand in hand, because I'm relying on Jesus to wake people up. And I say every day when I get on this thing, I write, Jesus, please put the words in my mouth so I can reach more people, so they can understand where we're coming from. I try to get people on here with different opposing opinions. But the people that think I'm wrong really never have a debate against me, Isaiah. If you've noticed, every time I try to get these people into a debate about what I'm witnessing, and I say, okay, well, let me give you my facts. Let me tell you what I'm seeing, and you tell me where I'm wrong. Those people never want to come on.
You know what Jesus used to say a lot in the Gospels?
Yeah,
He who has ears to listen, let him hear. So he who has ears to listen, let him hear. Meaning, if you're willing to listen to me and accept this, that's the person that's gonna listen to what I have to say.
That's it. And I that's why I said, when I was talking about Lindsey Graham, I looked up because I'm not a Bible student, but I said, you know what, I'm gonna get off on Lindsey Graham tomorrow, because I don't like Lindsey Graham. And the fact that he died, for people that love him, my apologies to you, but I don't love him. And I want people to understand what's going on in our country. So let's get back to that, Isaiah. And then I'll get into a couple of
it looks like it's resonating with I'll tell you, our audience is the chat's going crazy because of everything you're saying. So it looks like as we know, our audience understands this, and it resonates with them that the mainstream media is not the most reliable source of news.
Agreed. And I would say to the audience, the one thing I would ask our audience is, I know that the audience knows where I'm coming from, because it's validating what I always say, the people that get traction in media when it's fair, those are the people that talk about things that you think, but you have nobody to talk to it about because they think you're crazy. That's where the traction comes from. That's why Alex Jones was so popular. That's why Bill Cooper was so popular, because you started thinking, these things don't make any sense. Why don't they make any sense? And then those people started to make it make sense for you. And you went, and then things start to fall into place. You start to go, wait a minute, this is how this whole thing works. And I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get more people that would not normally listen to a podcast, not normally veer off of the corporate news press, to join us. We're wanting those people that think we're crazy to join us and listen to us for just a minute, and then pay attention, because even if we don't get to them right away, at some point they're going to watch Fox News and realize that we're right. Because if you go back, we're right now in 2026, if everything remains the same and we're in 2040, there will be a war that Fox News is promoting in 2040. There'll be a war that Fox News is promoting in 2060. There'll be a war that's being promoted by Fox News in 2080, because that's the engine of their business. That's the engine. Think of a news outlet that would pay $787 in a lawsuit where they were right all along. Just think about that. And what did it do? We talked about it a little bit yesterday. $787 million, whether they gave them $787 million, who knows? But if you have right on your side, why would you pay Dominion $787 million, as we've been talking about since that happened? Think of how long you could drag out a court case if you had $787 million. I'm a year into a court case. Right now, Isaiah. Family courts. I'm a year into a court case. I've been back and forth from Florida to St. Louis 6 times. By the time it's all said and done, it'll be 8, 9, 10 times I've had to fly back and forth over a court case over about $25,000. If I had $787 million, I could drag this out until my grandkids got through high school.
Yeah.
But they had to pay $787 to Dominion. And why did they do that? Because every news outlet, including the radio station that I was working at, I remember one day I mentioned Dominion, and oh my God, the phones, well, Rob, you can't say Dominion. Don't mention Dominion. We don't want to get anybody to take our life. I said, so I can't talk about an organization that I believe, as a free person in America, was complicit based on the knowledge that I have witnessed with my own eyes and the testimony before the courts that I watched, not the courts, the legislators that I watched. I watched it. Okay, you couldn't find it back in those days. It was on a couple of outlets on the internet. I watched all of the testimony, and I came to the understanding, based on the conversations between Jenna Ellis, Rudy Giuliani, and some of their guests in front of the state legislators, that the elections were manipulated. But I can't say it because Fox News had to pay $787 million. It scared everybody out of having the conversation.
Mhm.
Once again, I give you Fox News. When you look at Fox News, you should see Satan's view of the world. Satan's view of the world is Fox News. That's my opinion. Still free to have an opinion, Isaiah?
Oh yeah. Did you see Jay Clayton's confirmation hearing yesterday?
No.
Well, yeah, that was a very hot topic of conversation with him, is that they were grilling him on the 2020 election because he didn't come outright and say that Joe Biden won the election. He said something along the lines of, he was certified to win the election, and they were, the legislators were upset that he wouldn't outright come and say it. And so, I kind of liked that he wouldn't come outright and say it. That gives me a little bit of hope, that there might be some good people. And I know that there's good people in the administration. I don't think everyone in there is terrible. 100%. Sometimes I do even think that President Trump has good intentions and there's people around him that are steering him the wrong way. But that was just interesting to see, because that's something we can all watch and see firsthand, where there's, this is Trump's pick for the director of national intelligence, right, to replace Tulsi Gabbard. And he is not going to outright come and say that Joe Biden won the election. He's going to acknowledge the certification, but maybe there's, like Ali was telling us yesterday, maybe there's a little bit of hope here with the elections that's being handled. But, history tells me that we're not going to see much change.
I don't think we'll see. I think that the address tonight will be aimed at China. CBS is, I don't think CBS would come out, because you got to remember who's running CBS. The Zionists are running CBS, and the Zionists run this administration.
Very wise.
The Zionists ran the previous administration, and the Zionists ran the previous administration before that, and 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 before that. So the Zionists are telling us on CBS that, and if you don't believe that, I apologize. We're going to get to Kay Griggs here in just a minute, but they're telling us that Donald Trump is going to blame this on China. Kind of like COVID was blamed on China. China's the boogeyman for this administration, and I don't know if it's all administrations, but definitely this administration. Despite your lying eyes, despite the 600,000 students that are coming over from China, despite the fact that Elaine Chao's father was a shipping magnate for China, who was married to the former speaker, or the former leader of the Senate, right? And she was the transportation secretary when her father was tied to the CCP. But don't pay attention to any of that. It's all China, and we must defeat China, despite the fact that we're so in bed with China, it's almost to the point of absurdity. It's always China, I say. It's always China. It's China. Okay, let's get to Kay Griggs. Now, let me give you a little background on Kay Griggs.
You want to play the Fox News clip of Lindsey? You queued that up earlier.
I want to get that in the middle. I'm going to play this, and then I want to get to Lindsey Graham. So hold on with Lindsey Graham, because I want to make a point. Okay, so Kay Griggs is she's 55 years old when she does this interview. She hasn't been seen since. So she does this interview, and she either disappears from the planet or she was murdered. Who knows? But Kay Griggs did an interview, and nobody's seen her since. She just took off. And the interview that she did was about 7.5 to 8 hours long, and she walked through the entire history as she understood it, all the way back to the founding fathers. She talks about Masons being in positions of power. We've talked about that on this show, right, Isaiah? The governor of Missouri is a Mason. Right? Okay. So she talks about
We
the
looked at the
Masons.
newspaper, we verified it all too. So that's not
Verified in the
accusation.
newspaper.
Yeah.
Correct. So Masons, Kabbalists, Zionist ideology, and she said Zionist ideology runs the State Department, and she said it's run the State Department for quite some time. And she got this information again because her husband, who graduated from Princeton, gave her information throughout decades of their life together and kept a diary of it, dates, times, and names. And she just happens to be, if you watch the interview, you'll start to recognize she's brilliant because she talks maybe about 150 names off the top of her head. She had relationships with the people that run the country. She understands where their families come from. Her name is Kay Griggs. It's just the most astonishing interview that if you'd have listened to it 20 years ago, you'd have thought she was crazy. But as you start to get more and more in tune with what's going on in the world, you look back at what she said and you think, oh my, how right on the money was this woman 30 years ago? 30 years ago, right on the button. Her husband's name is George Griggs. According to her, George Griggs was in the military. He worked for the intelligence agencies. They have hit squads. They are aligned with the mafia. Whitney Webb said the exact same thing. She said the mafia and our government started holding hands and working together all the way back when Herbert Hoover, who was a gay man running the FBI, not Herbert Hoover. Is it Herbert Hoover? Not Herbert Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover. I'm sorry. J. Edgar Hoover. So when J. Edgar Hoover was running the FBI, he was a gay man, probably put there because he was a gay man. He was having liaisons in the Blue Room in New York City. That's where Roy Cohn comes into play. Roy Cohn, who's an attorney for the mafia. This is how Donald Trump comes into play. And you start to see the whole system work. And this is what Whitney Webb writes about in her book, One Nation Under Blackmail. And if you read the book, it's cited to the point of almost absurdity. She cites every single thing that she says. It's irrefutable how the country is laid out and the structure of our country. And when it gets off the rails at this level, I think we should start paying attention to it because right now, it feels to me that if we don't get some reality in our lives, we're going to be like zombies walking off the cliff. And at some point, our kids and our grandkids or some generation is going to get caught up in the spokes. That's my take on it. I just hope that we all wake up in time. That's my opinion on it. And again, before we get into Kay Griggs, the only way to beat the algorithms.
Oh yeah, especially today. Today.
Especially when I tell you they don't like us talking about what we're talking about. So under normal circumstances, you would see things going through the feed. People would click on it. They see somebody talking. Let me see what this person's saying. They might come on for 3 seconds, 5 seconds. If it's something they're interested in, they move on. When you talk about Israel, when you talk about Zionism, when you're anti-war or you're talking about elections, if you don't have a ton of money to advertise, they'll take your money. But if you're trying to do this from an organic standpoint, I'm telling you, the only way to do it, as we have witnessed very clearly, is through usurping the algorithms.
Yeah. Leave a comment too.
Yep,
share it with some friends. If you're watching on Facebook, it's super easy to click the share button and share it through Facebook Messenger. It's a very easy way. You can text it to someone too if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble or something like that, or just send them the website, therobbcartershow.com. The feed is right there on the website. So
share, comment, subscribe. I was just at lunch with an advertiser yesterday. He goes, so what's the subscribe? And I said, well, it's free on YouTube. I said, but if you go to Rumble and you subscribe, I think it's $5 a month, if I'm not mistaken, but it's the $5 a month.
It's just different terminology. That's that's the problem, is that YouTube calls subscribing, which is really following something.
Exactly.
And then Rumble calls subscribing something that you actually subscribe to. You pay for it, right?
Right.
And
look at Jackie. Now Jackie's a friend of the show. Jackie works with me at People's Lobby. Right. Will not let me move you to favorites. Exactly. So this is what I mean. And I'm not complaining about it. It is what it is. Now, should the United States government make it fair? Of course. This is the public square. This would be like saying you can't take phone calls from Isaiah because I don't want you two communicating. Therefore, when Isaiah makes a phone call to you, 1 out of 10 times the phone will ring. That if it was back in Ma Bell days, it's no different. If young people under the age of 35 communicate through social media and you limit the reach of social media because you don't like what somebody is saying, that would be no different than if they don't want me to communicate with Isaiah on the phone 50 years ago. That would have been illegal. But now, because we're so conditioned to go, well, that's their platform, they can do whatever they want. The platform is the United States government. All the social media, whether it be X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, they're all controlled by the government. And if the government wanted this information to come out, they would let it move freely through the internet sources, through social media, and you'd see a revelation very quickly. You'd
Mhm.
probably see a revolt very quickly, because more and more people would start to see this information. More and more people would start to talk about the information that I'm giving, because there's a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
It's just fragmented. And then you have charlatans. Just very quickly, Isaiah, because I got to get to K. Griggs. One of the things that I don't think many people recognize, people listening to this show do, but most people don't, is that they infiltrate the message with state actors. So, for example, if I'm telling you a story and you're going, yeah, well, somebody else that's got a bigger platform, a Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson, will agree with us. And then they'll talk about stories that are so ridiculous. And you're like, what are they talking about? And then they smear everybody with that brush because they have the bigger platforms. So they smear the people that are just mom and pops trying to get something off the ground with the bigger platforms. The bigger platforms will give you 99% of the same information or talk about the same things. But then they talk about things that are so crazy that the other side will come in and say, look what Tucker Carlson said. Look what Candace Owens is doing. Look what this person is doing. These people with big platforms. And then the totality of society looks at that and goes, well, see, all these people are crazy. They're all nuts. Right? That's a fact too. Wait a minute.
That's the fact, Jack. That's a fact, Jack.
All right, let's get to K. Griggs. Let's start at 22 minutes and 45 seconds. Just so open up K. Griggs, Isaiah. We're going to have to do this way. I can't really, if we're going to show video, I didn't want you to clip it. It would have taken us hours to go to. So if you just get it up, get it right around 22 minutes, and we're going to have to let it play. And I want people to get an understanding of K. Griggs.
What
you can
is
determine
this,
whether she's crazy. But here she is. Go ahead. We're right around 22 minutes. Let's start there.
Hook. They had a big party down at the beach, and they were doing, I mean, I didn't go by that time because I learned that he was married. And the point is that he and this whole group, I've found out about Al Gray, you know.
General Al Gray.
Yeah, yeah.
And that, what is this this consistent thread of the sexual degeneracy and the homosexuality and just the raw, base nature that seems to be so prevalent? Have you ever determined what it is? I mean, why?
Well, it's a way to handle them, to control them.
I mean, years ago, you thought of people like General Eisenhower as an upright man. I don't know.
Well, I know some things about him.
How far back can we go to where you find people that are decent and moral and upright?
Right.
Where you had real people who defended the Constitution, who had a feeling.
Robert E. Lee was.
There were nationalists and America first. You got to go back a good ways, probably.
Absolutely. You see, growing up in Norfolk, Virginia, my whole family have been naval officers and also working. In other words, they would enter the service during a time of war, of need, and then they go back to being fathers and being husbands. I had a wonderful father, wonderful grandparents, wonderful family who put their family first. Well, they put their God first, Christ, and then their wives and their sons and their children. This is the way America was built. Now, these generals in the Marine Corps and Army, they don't look at it that way, according to my husband. They are ordered, and my husband, being chief of staff, told his men it was like this. It's the Marine Corps first, the brotherhood, the cherry Marine, you know, the bonding that goes on.
Can you pause it?
The Marine Corps comes before God.
She's talking about gay Marines. The cherry reference is to gay Marines. I've watched this. This is 8 hours long, and I've seen it probably 5 times, Isaiah. So I kind of understand where she's coming from. But what she's trying to describe is there's an agenda where very powerful people within the military pick out gay men and drive them through to the top of the military, and that becomes a club, a secret society, if you will. Remember the secret societies, John F. Kennedy? For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy. Remember? He was talking about secret societies at the very beginning of that. Now, he's gone, right? He was assassinated. Continue on, K. Griggs. I just want people to understand it's not all Marines, obviously. When she's talking cherry Marines, she's talking about gay Marines. Okay, go ahead.
before Jesus Christ, before the country, and then it's it's whatever the religion they have. I don't know, because my husband is not a Christian. He's an existentialist. And most of these guys are. Certainly Al Gray is. Krulak. I think his wife goes to church. But
their God is this brotherhood.
The brotherhood. And it's very German. It's very...
Does it have Masonic leanings?
Oh, absolutely Masonic leanings. In fact, the admiral who was the last admiral whose car my husband bought, he was very impressed with this Norwegian admiral. They're all Masons now.
Mm-hmm.
Not all Masons, but this brotherhood, Opus Dei, if they're, or the mob. I mean, the one thing I've been able to determine about the current Marine Corps, the Marine Corps that my husband came in with, Gray, Reap, Sheehan, they're all mob.
No, when you say mob, you're talking mafia type
New
mob?
Jersey mafia, right. Right.
And there's a...
Brooklyn, New Jersey.
Okay, is the mob and this military bunch, they're one and the same?
The Marine Corps guys are the hitmen. And they are mercenaries. They'll work for anybody. You think the Marine Corps is under the Navy? No way. They can just as easily be under an Army colonel. And if the Army colonel meets a Marine Corps colonel, the Army colonel is superior. They'll switch hats just like that. My husband said it's just, no big a deal. I'll go work for the State Department. I don't really. The Marine Corps is just it's like a smoke and mirrors thing. And they're run out of New Orleans. 4th Marine, Oswald. I mean, they are not on his level. He said, we've never been an enemy of the Soviet Union. They work with these communists. The man who started this whole intelligence operation, the OSS, he was recruiting known communists who were involved in the Spanish subverting Spain. There's no more. They're not Americans. They're not Christians. They're German existentialists. Now, what are they doing running our nation? It's kind of, they have more affinity for the state of Israel right now than they do our nation.
Pause it.
They don't care about American citizens.
This is in 1996. Now, you got to understand, I'm not going to play the part where she's walking through a book, but she's basically got an encyclopedia of diary notes where she walks through all of the things that her husband was telling her because he'd get drunk and tell her stories, right? And she was able to verify them. She's not somebody that just is repeating what her husband said. She's a brilliant person, and you can tell that if you watch this 8-hour interview. You can tell that she's a brilliant person. She's got multiple degrees in history. She got a grant to go over and study history in Scotland. She understands how the secret societies work. She understands how governments get infiltrated from outside, which is what Abraham Lincoln said, right? If America falls, it will fall from the inside. She says that global interest, exactly what John F. Kennedy said, global interests have to find a way and a method to subvert our freedoms. And they do that by putting people in positions of power that work for them and not for the American citizen. Do you agree that that's happening right now in America? Do you see your government putting forth legislation or doing anything that you think is good for the whole of our nation? I mean, if you think the whole of our nation is benefited by $40 trillion in debt and continual war and passing laws that allow for domestic propaganda, then who are you rooting for?
Mm-hmm.
Are you rooting for the citizen or the government?
Didn't Thomas Massey tell us that his goal, as he's figured out, is not to pass legislation, but actually just to stop all the bad legislation that comes through the House?
That's what Bryant Wolfen said too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Bryant Wolfen said too. All right, now
I remember us talking to him about that, how Bryant Wolfen had said that, and I remember us having that conversation. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do, is stop all the bad legislation that's coming through the House right now.
Okay, before we get into the next portion of it, because what she said there is she didn't understand why Israel where they were working for Israel. Do you think they're working for Israel now? They're trying to pass legislation right now. They haven't done it yet. There's a lot of information. I even got fooled by it yesterday. I had to take a couple posts down right away yesterday because I thought these influencers that I had been trusting, because I normally check it.
The Senate did pass yesterday evening. I did see the Senate did, but a lot of people are saying that the House passed it.
Right, and it did.
Yeah.
But now I want you to go to Lindsey Graham. So let's go to Lindsey Graham, and then we'll come back to Kay Griggs. But let's get Lindsey Graham in here for a minute. This is Lindsey Graham, clip number 2. Now, this is during a conversation on what else but Fox News, the Zionist News Network, CNN, Fox News, the Zionist News Network. Here is Lindsey Graham. May he rest in peace. Here's what he had to say about Israel right in the middle. Just listen to how he says it. It's just so obvious who these people are working for. And I don't know what it means that they're working for Israel. I think it's tied to the United States, but I think the intelligence agencies, and I think that's what Kay Griggs explains throughout this 8-hour interview, the intelligence agencies are derived out of Israel. Okay. The real global intelligence agencies are derived in Israel. All right. Lindsey Graham, check this out.
Forget it. I'm not with you. I'm with Israel. I will be with Israel to our dying day. They're the best ally we could hope for. So we have a commander-in-chief in President Trump, who I think is Ronald Reagan plus.
Well, he kept that promise.
Okay. So till his dying day, he was rooting for Israel. He doesn't care what you think. He doesn't care if you're America first. He's Israel first. They are our greatest ally in the world, no matter what they do, despite the fact that Lindsey Graham would never take an interview, would never take a conversation with the USS Liberty vets. You can't get people in this nation, even the military, to have a conversation with people that were firsthand witnesses, and they all say the same thing. If you listen to the entire story the USS Liberty vets tell us, Isaiah, you'd agree, right? It was an intentional attack on an American warship. Period. End of sentence. Period. And you have to argue with people who don't know anything about anything because Ben Shapiro told them the official story is it was an accident. And you'd have to be, I just want, I even have some really smart people in my life who argue this with me. And I just ask you, back in those days, the warship that they attacked, they said they thought it was coming from a foreign country who has black warships. Was the USS Liberty black? No, it was gray. You know who had gray warships back in 1967? That's right. America had gray warships. You know who had English writing on their warships? American ships had English writing on their warships. You know who flew the American flag up above the warships?
Who?
Americans run the American flag on top of their warships. You'd have to be an imbecile understanding all of the things that went down in June 8th, 1967 to think that was an accident. If you know the details of what the USS Liberty vets are trying to get out to America right now, you'd have to be a moron to think that, and I mean that sincerely. If you believe it, then I think you're a moron on this particular issue. Maybe not in other parts of your life, but in this particular instance, I think anybody who doesn't trust 15 to 20 to 25, the people that survived to this date, that are USS Liberty vets who watched this happen in real time, studied it afterwards, talked to one another. If you don't believe them, the eyewitnesses, but you believe Ben Shapiro, who wasn't even alive when it happened, tell you that it was a big mistake, then I just don't know where to go with you. I don't know how do you dismiss 15, we met 17, 80-year-old men who do not want anything from it. They don't want any compensation. They only are getting the story out because they were told if they talked about it back in the day, they would be court-martialed, or as they say, or worse. That's what they were told, to keep their mouths shut about what they had witnessed. But then
not even talk to their wives.
Couldn't even talk to their wives, they said. This is what they were, the instructions. Now they're 80. Now they don't care. Now they're coming out with the story. Thomas Massey was the only one, and maybe Ro Khanna, that were willing to listen to it. Okay.
Earl Issa, too. He was great.
Earl Issa. So there's a handful of people in our government that will even listen to these guys. You can't get the military to recognize them. You can't get the Republican Party to recognize them. You can't get the Democrat Party to recognize them. You can't get Fox News to. Oddly, you can't.
Weren't they banned from the American Legion too?
Banned from the American Legion. Think about Fox News, because we, the whole story that we started the day with was Fox News. Think about this. Do you think it's a story, even if it's just up for debate? Do you think it's a story that 15, 80-year-old plus men believe that the USS Liberty was intentionally attacked by the state of Israel, killed 34 people, wounded 134 more? Do you think that's a story based on what's going on in our world right now? Because I would think it's a story. And if I worked at Fox News, like, wow, this is a really crazy story. These guys actually believe it, and they can walk through in detail for hours explaining to you why they know for sure it was intentional. Not only what they saw, but what they heard, what they witnessed, what they talked about afterwards, the people that were involved, all saying that this was an intentional attack. Do you think Fox News should cover that story?
Yeah.
We had 100 million views. Me and Isaiah. Well, how many views, Isaiah? 50 to 100 million?
No, I mean, it probably over
insane.
100 million. Yeah.
So that's me and Isaiah going and following the story. Do you think the world is interested in that story if we got 100 million views? How much good for the country and for America could Fox News, how much influence would it have if it would just cover the story, let these people speak on their airways, but they won't? Why won't they? In your mind out there, you Fox News viewers, which I say is satanic viewing for everybody, why would Fox News not allow the people of the USS Liberty to get their story out? Explain it to me. 80-year-old men, positive of what they witnessed, want no compensation. They only want their legacy to be that they got the story out before they died. And Fox News will not touch them with a 10-foot pole. We've asked him many times. They won't talk to you. They said, nope. None of the major outlets will have anything to do with us. None of the military organizations will have anything to do with us. The only people that give us any ounce of free speech are podcasters. Just think about that for a second and think of how crazy that is in a free society where you have military members who risk their life on behalf of their country being silenced because the story that they tell doesn't mesh with the narrative that the corporate media want to sell us. Sickening, if you ask me. So there is
a big fact that's left out of the USS Liberty story, Rob, is that this is the only incident like this where these allies attacked anything American to this level. There's no other incident that's happened like this in history. And so it would be the craziest accident that's ever happened. And these are the dumbest pilots that's ever flown. If that's the case, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they said the day before, and you might remember this when we were talking to them, the day before the actual attack, either the day before, I think it was the day before, the day before the attack, they said Israeli pilots were flying low enough that they were dipping their planes. They could actually see the faces of the Israeli pilots the day before the attack. You think it was just, you think that the Israeli military willy-nilly just starts attacking ships that they have no understanding of who's underneath it? Don't even say, hey, wait a minute, before we attack the ship, maybe we should check out America because the ship is gray and it does have an American flag on it. We were just there yesterday. You don't, in your mind, because I'm arguing with people in the Missouri government right now, in your mind, you think that they just made it up. They woke up at 80 years ago. You know what we should do is we should make up some cockamamie story. Maybe we'll get some attention. We'll just go, we'll take no compensation. We'll have everybody hate us. Everybody call us anti-Semitics, and we'll just anti-Semitic, and we'll go out and we'll just make a big fish story at 80 years old. Does anybody with a functioning mind really believe that? Of course not. And yet you can't get really smart people to even have a conversation with you about it, which I find fascinating. All right, let's move this along.
Last thing, this was reported in the Israeli paper. The Israeli paper.
Yep. This
is not the American paper. Haaretz, this is Israeli paper. They found that there was evidence that they intentionally attacked the USS Liberty.
But it's so obvious. That's what I'm saying. We're debating whether today is Thursday right now. We are. We're debating whether the U.S. Liberty undertook a deliberate attack by Israel is debating whether today is Thursday.
Yep.
Is today Thursday, Isaiah?
Yes, Thursday, July 16th.
And the USS Liberty was definitely attacked intentionally by the state of Israel. They were intentionally attacked by the state of Israel, and now our government is trying to combine military technology with that same state. The same state, if you really pay attention to it, that was behind the assassination of John F. Kennedy. So let me just lay this out very quickly. And I would like anybody that wants to have a debate with me, publicly or privately, anywhere in the world, I'll be there for you. If you want to argue with me that this was not an intentional attack, I will take that debate with you. I'll bring the people from the USS Liberty, and you can stand before them and tell them that they're lying to you. Okay, is that fair enough? Because it's just so depressing that we have people that I really like and trust that won't even acknowledge that this happened. It's so un-American to me. And now let's just put this in a fact pattern. We have the assassination of John F. Kennedy. You have the release of the John F. Kennedy, not enough, but it's some of the JFK files where you see that a guy named Jesus Angleton. Is it Angleton? I think it was Angleton, who was working alone with the Israeli intelligence agencies. So he was in our CIA, but he had a secret offshoot on his own dealing with the Israeli military. You have the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Then you have the assassin, the supposed assassin of John F. Kennedy, Lee Harvey Oswald, who had just been to Russia, who Griggs just told you, we're not really fighting with Russia. They're just in the same game together, right? Fear, 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 right? Then you have Jack Rubenstein, who was in the mafia with Meyer Lansky, who ran the Jewish mafia in those days. He's the one that kills Lee Harvey Oswald. Then you fast forward to 1967, and an Israeli military, the Israeli military, destroys the USS Liberty, and then our government tells them to keep it quiet. And here we are in the year 2026 as the Israeli military is bombing Christians in Gaza, bombing Christians in Syria, bombing Christians in Lebanon. We're gonna join our military together. And you know who's behind it? Tommy Cotton. Now, if you go back to Tommy Cotton, I have said for the last 5 years that I believe that Tom Cotton is another one of these people that is, and I apologize, I know sometimes these conversations are uncomfortable for certain people, but I want you to know where I'm coming from. The reason pedophilia continues in this world is because it's so destructive that people can't even look at it. If you could look at it, it would make you so sick that anybody that participated in it, you'd want to hang or you want to cut their head off. When you see a grown man raping a 5-year-old, you want to kill that person immediately. But because it's so traumatic, nobody will even watch it, so it continues on. Sometimes you have to talk about very uncomfortable things. I believe that Tom Cotton is a gay man by looking at him, by watching his career. Can you give me a little picture of Tom Cotton? Come on. Isaiah. Come on. Now this guy, look how much he got from AIPAC. 1.1 million. Okay. Now this is what Kay Griggs said is happening. Now, what committees is Mr. Cotton on? Can you look up what committees Tom Cotton is in charge of? Mm-hmm. So as she said, gay men coming from the military, the Army is on top of the Marines. They get into positions of power. They run the show. That is the structure. And they're in a secret society that is connected through homosexuality and debauchery. That's what she's saying. You find out the committees he's in charge of?
Yep. Throwing it up now here. Senator Tom Cotton currently serves on 4 primary Senate panels, including the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence.
Oh, you don't say.
Chairman.
You don't say. Huh? They sold this guy. If you look at his Army Ranger pictures, it looks like glamour shots from the 1980s with a Army uniform on and a gun over his shoulder. Tom Cotton is a Army Ranger about as much as I am a professional basketball player. Ridiculous. Insane, in my opinion. If an Army Ranger can't do 22 good push-ups in his late 30s, early 40s, then I ask you, what is an Army Ranger? Are there any Army Rangers out there that you know that can't do 22 push-ups properly?
No.
No. It's bizarre, the world we live in. But these are the things that are uncomfortable to talk about that we have to recognize in order to solve a problem. You can't bury your head into here's another issue that I think we have a problem with, Isaiah, is when people don't, they think that if it's not sold to them on Fox News or sold from their media sources, then it's not real.
Yeah.
How many times have I said if a nuclear bomb went off in Idaho, right now, a bomb goes off in Idaho, and you hear through the rumor that a bomb went off in Idaho, and then what are you going to do? You're going to turn on Fox News, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC. You're going to turn those stations on. And if they don't report on it, 99% of the population will think it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm. I was actually talking to I played some video games last night for the first time in a long time. And I was talking to some buddies and I was explaining, hey, do you guys know about this NDAA and how we're merging our intelligence with Israel? And one of my buddies, he's like, no, what are you talking about? That's not happening. No, there's no way that's happening. I said, yeah, it's happening. You can Google HR 8800. That's the House resolution with the NDAA. You can Google that. It's happening right now. I said, it's unfortunate, but it is happening. He's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. I said, I know. Yeah, no, you don't know. That's the point. And that's the whole point of this merging of the intelligence is that because of the criticism that Israel's getting from the public funding that they can see, right? because we can see the amount of money that they're getting right now. Now they're gonna, and Bibi himself says, "Oh, we need to bring down the aid to Israel from America." Right as soon as he's getting the harshest criticism he's ever received, and simultaneously, while this is all happening, let's just shift this in here. So now we can start sending. Just yesterday, 3.3 billion. Went to Israel, and that's not even the NDAA yet. That's just appropriations for certain spending.
Yeah, Bibi Netanyahu and his puppet, Tom Cotton, who chairs the Senate Intel Committee, is now putting forth legislation that will combine military technology with Israel, and our country doesn't even care.
No. Just a little comedic relief here.
I was going to say to John, I do want to play with you while I'm in town, and I want to live stream it, and I want people to take bets on us. How about that? Can you live stream the ass kicking?
I almost spit my coffee out.
Just live stream it, and I'll put the thing on John. The reason he can't beat me anymore is he can't hit the ball out of his shadow. It's not that he's not a good golfer. He's just so weak that he can't hit the ball far enough to compete with me. That's all it is. All right. Let's do a little.
I thought it was a good thing to do to transition back to K. Griggs.
Yes, let's advertise a little bit. Then I'm going to do K. Griggs, and we'll bring an act from Missouri right around 10:30. I want to get the K. Griggs because I got a couple more clips. I want people to understand where she's come from, and I would ask everybody, if you have the time or energy, to go check out K. Griggs. You can go to YouTube, type in K. Griggs, look for the interviews where it's about 7 hours long. Pick up anywhere and listen for a half hour, 40 minutes, and you're going to go, wow, man, this lady is something else. And she's got a lot of information, and she has the documentation and stories to tell that you can look up 30 years later and go, wow, right on the money. All right, let's do it.
And there's a new interview I just found. It only has 1,000 views, Rob.
Okay.
Of K. Griggs from December 2024. It's kind of hidden. People didn't know about it. And right now it only has 1.5 thousand views, and it's been up for a year. Because
Really?
no one knew where she was, and this is the first
Well, it's
interview.
not a new video, I wouldn't assume.
Well, from 2024.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a new video, is it? Can't be.
From a year ago. So, no,
Yeah,
it's a new interview from December 2024.
Really?
Yes.
Posted on December 24th or taken on December 24th? Because nobody can find her.
Yeah, taken on December
30 years. Okay, let's look
taken
at
on
it.
December 2024. And then another guy on the X post that I found this on said that he just talked to her as well in June. So
Really?
yeah. So it seems like it does
Even
say
if
that
you
she's
go
not
to
in the.
Yeah, if you go to every single AI version,
I know, that's what I did too first.
she hasn't been seen since 1996.
That's what I did, and then I had to dig further outside of AI to find anything.
Okay, let's get that.
It was like, man, this is.
I'll get K. Griggs on if she's still alive.
I know that's what I want to try to do, but it does seem that she is definitely still not, in the public eye, if that makes sense. So
Gotcha. Yeah.
There's a truth to that. It's just that I think that she's not calling up CBS or Fox News saying, hey, do you want to interview me? And they're not calling her to say, hey, can we interview you? Right.
She definitely disappeared from the public eye there for a while. All right. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Pretty please, with sugar on top. Let's do some advertising very quickly. Let's start with People's Lobby, Missouri. I got a nice infusion of cash the last couple of days, Isaiah.
Wow.
I appreciate it very much. And actually, somebody reached out to me and said, how do I get money to you? And I haven't responded to that person, but I will get to you, I promise. Well, I didn't
Good
respond.
problem to have when you can't get to the person that's trying to get money to you.
Exactly. Grace, no. People's Lobby, Missouri. Again, very quickly, because I want to get through these, especially with my own, which People's Lobby, Missouri is our organization. I'm the founder of People's Lobby, Missouri. People's Lobby, Missouri, very quickly, is a marketing company meant to put pressure on the political system. Very simple. We focus on taxes, accountability, and elections. That's it. There's many different issues. Once we get those solved, maybe we move to some others. But right now, People's Lobby, Missouri, if you join up and you donate, fantastic. If you can't donate, join up. Start paying attention to what we have to say. Get involved with your government. As we're going to hear from Mike Compton here in just a bit. If you want to keep the republic, it is a government of, by, and for the people. If you wash your hands and your feet of our entire operation and you give it away to Washington, D.C. or the lobbyists in Jefferson City, then you're going to get whatever they decide to give to you. You'll have no control over your own destiny, and you can determine whether that's a good thing or not. If you want to join People's Lobby Missouri, go to peopleslobbymo.com. peopleslobbymo.com. All right, Grace. GraceHauling.com. GraceHauling.com.
GraceHauling.com.
Again. In St. Charles County, if you are into rubbish and into trash, or you have rubbish and trash, you got to remember gracehauling.com. If you are a commercial customer, 2, 4, 6, and 8-yard dumpsters. If you are a commercial customer, or a residential customer, I should say, trash pickup, bulk pickup, yard waste, recyclables, anything rubbish, anything trash, it is gracehauling.com. Gracehauling.com, gracehauling.com. I said, Gary, what do you want me to say about your business? He said, Rob, you know what? But for the grace of God, I wouldn't have such a thriving business. I said, well, I'll just say that. Gracehauling.com, our good friend Gary Schneiderman, just a great help to our business, a great help to our show. He's a wonderful person. If you have any kind of trash pickup, or whether you're residential or commercial, it is gracehauling.com, gracehauling.com, gracehauling.com. And then I was back and forth with Advanced Wellness MED last night. Our good friend, Dr. Helen Gelhart. So another person reached out to me yesterday and said, how do I get in touch with Dr. Helen Gelhart? So we put just another
Right.
person in her arena, because again, if you're somebody who knows anybody in your world with dementia or Alzheimer's, this should be the first call that you make. And there's a lot of people suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's. So if that's in your family, or a friend of yours has it, make sure they reach out to Dr. Helen Gelhart. She's not in the hospital administration, so she gives you better care than you would ever get throughout those systems. She does take insurance, so this isn't something, she's a medical doctor, but she does things just a little bit different. She does things that she thinks will help you. She's not worried. She's not confined by anything. Dr. Helen Gelhart, our friend, 314-576-0094. Anything that kills you, she specializes in. So she has the earliest cancer detection blood test available. She pre-screens for heart attacks and strokes. Again, if you are the one that gets me is the dementia and the Alzheimer's. I've just seen it up close. It's devastating. And if you have somebody that has dementia or Alzheimer's beginning stages, or anywhere in the line there, she can reverse the symptoms. They have methods to reverse the symptoms. It will change your life completely. It certainly changed the life of your family if you get a hold of Dr. Helen Gelhart at advancedwellnessmed.com. Advancedwellnessmed.com, 314-576-0094. And then we have Larry Evans. He was on the chat yesterday for quite some time.
Yeah.
Larry Evans, wonderful guy. Again, if you need a new roof, it's always ECS Roofing. People you can rely upon, been in business for 30 years, used to build homes, roofing, siding, decks, gutters, garage doors, custom exterior metal. He is our general contractor. So if you have any of those needs, you can look up ECS Roofing and Exteriors on Facebook. The big key to him, as we say every single day, he's a licensed insurance inspector. So when he tells you that the insurance companies will work to help replace or fix your roof, he's not lying to you. The game around the country is they come in, they knock on your door after a storm. They say they see something wrong with your roof. They tell you they're going to be able to work with the insurance companies. They're just getting you in the system. No rhyme or reason to it whatsoever. ECS Roofing and Exteriors. Again, if you need a new roof, if you have a repair to your roof, or you have a friend or anybody in your world that's talking about a new roof, remind them, ECS Roofing and Exteriors, 314-486-3567. 314-486-3567. ECS Roofing and Exteriors. RocketCareers.com.
Oh, baby.
My man Mitch, is he in here today? Mitch, where are you at?
He was, yeah.
He was? Okay. My man Mitch. RocketCareers.com. Nationwide business. So this is coast to coast. If you're listening from anywhere in America, RocketCareers.com is for small to medium-sized businesses who either don't have a human resources department, or the human resources department that works with you is not getting you good candidates for your business. And in this day and age, it is very difficult to get good people into your company. These guys specialize in it. They're great at it. They have a network from coast to coast. If you need a good candidate for your business, just give them a call. RocketCareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com, 636-778-2419. If you're out of work, if you hate your job, if you're on the other side, if you're looking for employment, maybe you just hate your job, you can't take it anymore, or maybe you're out of work and the money's running dry and you're starting to panic just a little bit, reach out to RocketCareers.com. They will use their network to help you launch a new career. RocketCareers.com, RockitCareers.com, 636-778-2419. All right, let's get back into Kay very quickly. This is Kay Griggs. I recommend that everybody pay attention to her and then see if what she said back in 1996 applies to what you're starting to recognize today. I think it will blow your mind for me, one of the most enlightening interviews I've ever seen. It's 7-8 hours long. That's why you don't have a lot of people that they can't stick with it that long.
I couldn't believe I was downloading and I was like, oh, it's 7 minutes long. This is gonna be great. We can watch this whole thing. I was like, oh no, that's 7 hours long.
7
Oh
hours.
my gosh.
7 hours. She basically said, I'm doing this. She made kind of references to her family might be in danger. She made a couple of references to that. But she's like, you know what? Here we go, baby. Let me tell you what I know, and you can do whatever you want with it. So let's go to the founding fathers, because I want to get into this. It's 4 hours and 6 minutes in. 4 hours and 6 minutes. So right around 4 hours and 6 minutes.
Got it.
You're going to hear her, because this is her background. This is her history. This is what she studied. Imagine having a degree in Virginia history. Can you imagine, Isaiah, that there is such a degree? Virginia history is something that she studied, and she went over into Europe and studied there as well. But here she is talking about the founding fathers. This is Kay Griggs telling you how this country works from top to bottom. Go.
Rid of our form of government as a stepping stone to world domination. So this group now in the Army and in the Marine Corps has communists at the very top who are really, existentialist, which means they don't believe in God, they don't believe in Christ, they live for the moment, they believe in sort of one world which has no religions in it.
Right.
They're the ones who put Napoleon in power, they're the ones who put Oliver Cromwell in power, they're the ones probably who actually were behind the Roman Empire and maybe the Egyptian Empire. They put puppet people in power, and they actually run it from behind the scenes. Now, Trotsky, as I understand it, was escaped from Russia. He had become a Christian, I understand, and was working with agents in the United States, Israel, and he was considered a threat. So he had to be silenced, killed. There's an excellent book which I have called The Mind of an Assassin, which is about the background of Trotsky's assassin, a young man named Ramon, who was trained, he was Soviet paid, I think he had experience in Spain. They organized it in Paris, I believe. And of course, up to the present time, there have been assassins operating out of Rome, Milan in particular, Naples, and Paris. And these are all anarchists, all mob related. They use mob funding. And of course, drug money to pay for the weapons, which are brand new weapons. The Bosnia Bazaar, this is the reason we had the war in Bosnia. The war in Bosnia is simply a stage to train assassins, to be a market for brand new weapons, to be a marketplace so that the drug money can be used. And the Army runs the whole show. It's totally run by the Army. The CIA is a bogus thing. It's Training and Doctrine Command. It's NATO. It's SHAPE. Supreme Headquarters, Allied Powers Europe, started by Eisenhower. It's a totally independent corporation. Its main function is to sell weapons and launder money.
You're talking about CIA?
No,
No,
I'm talking
no.
about SHAPE.
SHAPE. Okay.
CIA is kind of bogus. I mean,
That's just
there.
a trade name for the media
Oh, it's to
to use.
confuse us. It's just to get us off the track. It's all being done by Army people who are now joint, because the word joint comes from the group that brought over a lot, and a lot of good people came over, but they came over illegally to kind of escape Nazi Germany and stuff. I don't know that much about it, but I do know that the funding organization, one of the funding organizations was out of New York, and it was called The Joint. And Meyer Lansky, see, our mob, the organized crime, the Jewish Kabbalist group, who don't believe in God really, well, they do. They look at God as a Kabbalah kind of thing, and the opposite of good is bad, and they have to get rid of all the good people and kill them, and then, you know, I mean, they really do this. They're killing people
Charlie Kirk.
who are good on purpose, and they get brownie points with their little cult. But this funding group in New York, they would pay for passports which were illegal, and they, in fact, my grandfather was involved with that. That's how I know so much about it, because my grandfather was told to keep silent and not to tell anybody, but of course he told my grandmother, and my grandmother told me, and I've told my children. Everybody knows they brought in probably more than 200,000 Nazi soldiers and SS and, you know, wacko scientists and psychologists, and all of them, most of them, had the German disease, you know, because it was their culture.
The German disease?
Yeah, the German disease is what the Pink Triangle boys were.
Check this out.
Colonel Ron Ray writes about this. He's a Marine colonel who's a Christian who's writing about the Cherry Marines, the homosexuality in the group sex orgies and so forth, which brought down the German government, because Naples, which is where all of the Navy is doing their playing, I mean, today in Naples, these orgies are going on. It was where Krupp, the weapons manufacturer, used to take the German high command, and they would go into the Isle, on the Isle of Capri, into the Blue Grotto. And they would have big orchestras, and they'd bring in little boys, little Italian boys, who would be raped. They'd give them trinkets. And of course, the mothers gradually found out, and just like me, it was one thing when there was just one of me. Now there are a lot more of us wives who are talking and telling truth. And it took those Italian women went to newspapers in Italy, they wouldn't listen. But when they went to the wives of these guys in Germany, it brought it all out. It brought the German government down, because they were duplicitous in it, you know. But what they were doing was pedophilia. They were raping, bringing in little boys. They involved the Catholic priests, you know, who were bringing in all, anyway. So, but what happened was, this whole group came over to the United States. And they, it's an old culture, but it is the reason there are a lot of things going on with children these days. And it explains why it's all being covered up, because if you've got police officers who are playing these games, and they're going in the woods like to, what is this place where, I mean, even Eisenhower played these games. Even Mike Kemp out in, it's called the Hermitage.
The Hermitage.
In California, where they all run, they get drunk and they run around nude in the woods and stuff.
Bohemian Grove kind of
That's
thing.
it, Bohemian Grove.
Okay. And rather than Hermitage, it's the Bohemian
Bohemian
Grove.
Grove, that's the name of it. My brain's tired.
That's okay.
And the one in, there was a big one in Washington called Rush River Lodge.
That's good,
Where
Isaiah.
they used to all go, and there are lots of places.
It's actually
now.
not the clip that I was expecting for some reason, but she also said, because I was talking about the background with the founding fathers. Did you know that all of the founding fathers were homeschooled? Did you know that, Isaiah? Your volume's down.
Yeah, that makes sense, because the the education system wasn't really formed yet.
Yeah. She said that all of the founding fathers were homeschooled. She said that they used to write, when they said they were Christians, the founding fathers, it was a lowercase c. She never really explained that. I was going to ask you, do you know what that means? She said when they described themselves as Christians, they would write it with a lowercase c, the founding fathers. I thought it was pretty interesting. And she said that Thomas Jefferson,
Instead of like a proper noun.
Yeah, she said Thomas Jefferson became a Christian. She had the writings back.
A lot of them were outside of what Orthodox Christianity would be considered for a lot of them. Some of them were deists and different things like that. And so some of them rejected some fundamental aspects of what Catholicism or Protestant Christianity would accept. And so I'm not saying that they were, you know, Satanists or, you know, anything crazy like that, but they were definitely, you know, they had the reason we came over was because of the persecution, the religious persecution. And then when the Protestants got here, then their own sects started to form because of the different beliefs they had. And all the founding fathers were from, you know, Quakers and all these different beliefs. And so that could have something to do with it. I don't know, but I just know that to be true.
Yeah, she had a very deep insight to Thomas Jefferson. I guess she had studied him inside and out, all of his writings, everything that was available to her. And she said he was a Christian. He was going to Baptist churches at the time. He did not believe, based on his writings, that Jesus was divine, but he labeled himself as a Christian. So, kind of to what you were trying to say. I'm gonna get more into. I'll do better clips. You know, it was something that came up to my mind yesterday when people were kind of, you know, and I understand, you know, why people were upset with some of the things that I said. I do that sometimes for effect. But my sarcasm is meant to draw a picture in your mind. And I really want people to, instead of just agreeing, really think about, really try to understand what's going on in our world right now. Really think about it. Just think of a society that has been creating perpetual war for 50 years, bombing people in the Middle East just relentlessly over and over and over. And our society doesn't bat an eye. Just does not even bat an eye. And the people that do bat an eye, the people that do go, wait a minute here, hang on just a minute, they are labeled as pro-Islam, anti-American, not patriotic, and they are denounced by the people that watch Fox News every day. And that's just the way it is. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. That is just the way it is. And you can think about it in your own lives. Think of how many people, when you tell them that 80,000 people had 2,000-pound bombs dropping on them routinely in Gaza, many of them Christians, nobody cares. The Republican Party simply does not care. Not only do they not care, they think it's justified. As we played the clip earlier from Lindsey Graham.
You're also the terrorists.
He said the Republican, you're not in touch with the Republican Party. Flatten them. I think we should nuke them. I mean, just think about that. That's the Republican Party, according to Lindsey Graham. And Donald Trump was singing his praises. He had a lot of power. He's been in power in South Carolina for a long time. So he's telling us that the Republican Party, the leadership of the Republican Party, and then the mouthpiece, the Fox Newses of the world, who reiterate it to everybody and sell it to them on a day-to-day basis, has conditioned the mind. That's why I said, if you're somebody who watches Fox News routinely, you're being influenced out of reality, and you're being really, really misled. Terribly misled, because no Christian, no person who believes in Jesus Christ and what he taught would think that it's okay to level a society that has been living in an open air prison for 50 years. And there's not a person that's went over there from anywhere around the world that describes it any different, Isaiah. How many people have we had on this show? I've had at least 6 people on this show that have firsthand knowledge of what goes down in Gaza, and they all come back with a completely different story than what our news tells us. Completely different story. Soldiers shooting kids in the head for fun, like they're in target practice, laughing about it. We had a doctor on who she goes, I'm not Muslim. I mean, I just went over there because I'm a doctor who cares about people. I went over there and she goes, and I'm just telling you what goes on. She goes, on a daily basis, we had people coming, young kids, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, coming into our hospital with bullet wounds to the head. And we're rooting for those people. Not only are we rooting for those people, we're going to join military operations with those people, and we're giving them our money, and they bombed the USS Liberty.
It's just collateral damage, Rob. It's collateral damage, right?
It's awful.
War happens. It's collateral damage. People die.
Correct.
That's what they tell us, right? That's the pushback that we get from that.
I'm bummed out by it, because I don't think that there's anything I could say or do that will change the minds of some people. It's so depressing to me. Go ahead, Isaiah.
You want to hear what Jesus has to say?
Yes.
So he says, "You've heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says, 'You fool,' will be liable to the hell of fire. And so not only does he not like murdering, but he doesn't even like us to have the thoughts or the intentions that we would want to hate someone so much that we could eventually stir up enough hate to murder them, right?
Yes. Well, that's
And
the demonization of an entire people.
Exactly.
That's what Fox News has done from its inception, is demonize an entire group of people every day, all day, and then it gets picked up by local radio stations, television affiliates, newspapers, and you have a tidal wave of information of how Israel is so fantastic. They're our greatest ally in the world, despite the fact that they're picking off children with shotguns and machine operations and drone attacks and 2,000-pound bombs. And our society, especially one party in this particular instance, does not care at all and thinks that I am a communist for even bringing it to their attention. Honest to God, Isaiah, I had friends. I had a buddy I was telling you yesterday who said I was a
You got
communist.
blue hair, Rob. You got
Yeah,
blue hair and piercings in your nose too, right?
I'm a communist for thinking that we should not be bombing innocent people that have no way to protect themselves. There's nothing they can do. They don't have guns. They have limited water. They have limited movement. And our society is paying a foreign country to bomb those people into submission. Same thing they're doing in Lebanon. Same thing they've done in Syria. Same thing they've done from now until forever. And those are the same people that you and I know, whether people listen to this know or not. It's the same people that bombed USS Liberty and killed 34 heroic sailors and injured another 134. And our government kept that information from them. That's why I think Kay Griggs is so important, because Kay Griggs explains what's going on through the lens of intelligence operations through the military. She says the CIA is kind of this vague thing. And she said they're just there for confusion. And that's kind of what I agree with. They're there for confusion. They are there to set the narrative, and then it goes from there. But they set the narrative. If you go back to the church hearings, Isaiah, there's a CBS executive that asked if the CIA has penetrated their news organization, and he looks back and asks whether he can answer the question. He goes, maybe we should talk about that in private. Then you see the Smith Modernization Act. Nobody bats an eye at it.
Yeah.
Our own government passed laws to lie to us, and we wonder what's going on in the world. All right, let's bring in on that note, let's cheer
We
up.
trust them, right? We trust them, and they can't figure out why we don't trust them, Rob.
Correct.
They don't know.
They just
I'm sure Mike and Amy can tell us, though.
Amy will tell. All right, Mike Compton, Amy Castro, Act for Mo. What's going on, kids? How are you?
Wow, that's a heavy intro.
It's been it was an interesting 24 hours for me, because I'm probably one of the most harshest critics of Lindsey Graham from the time I met him. I've been watching his career from the time I met him, and I just find him to be a satanic demon. So when he passed away, I poked fun at him because I didn't like him, and I got not a lot, but some pushback on it. I was trying to explain that the reason I got the pushback is it kind of goes back to what I learned from Kay Griggs. Have you guys ever heard of Kay Griggs before today?
No, I have not.
Okay. So Kay Griggs was, just very quickly, we'll get into everything and we'll give you plenty of time. What Kay Griggs talked about in a 7.5, almost 8-hour interview was how the government and the world was structured so that a very small amount of people that were in secret societies could control the planet. And if you just look through what she has to say 30 years ago and what you see today, you start to see where she's coming from, right? Because she said what they have tried to do throughout time is to promote homosexuality through the ranks of the military and into positions of power. And the guy asked her, well, why would they do that? And she said they have figured out long, long ago that through the human mind of a gay person, right? So somebody who's, I believe people are born gay. I don't think they turn gay. I think you're born gay. That's kind of how I look at it, but I could be wrong. But if they are gay, or even if they turn gay, the mind is able to be controlled more so than somebody who has a family, somebody that is heterosexual. She said that it's just, they have figured that out long ago. So what they do is they drive these people through the military and they get them into positions of power so that they can control the masses through gay men who are either compromised because they did something that was on that is on video, that it can be talked about. And they said, those people are easy to control. They get in positions of power and they'll do whatever they're told to do because they want to protect their reputations, especially when you go back 40, 50 years ago when it was so, taboo to be gay. And I just thought, when I first heard it, I've just put it in the memory bank. And then I look at guys like Lindsey Graham, Tom Cotton, Pete Buttigieg. I just start to look at just think about this. Do you remember when Sidney Powell was talking about the video, the computer from Anthony Weiner You guys remember that?
Yeah.
That it was so horrible that the officers in New York City threw up when they looked at it.
Yeah.
Let's look at who's involved there, right? So you have Anthony Weiner, who was a congressman out of New York, who was married to Uma Abedin, who was the assistant of Bill and Hillary Clinton. She comes from the Muslim Brotherhood. Anthony Weiner is Jewish. Make that make sense. Then he gets busted sending pictures of his, you know what, to a 15-year-old girl. Then he loses his seat. And Uma Abedin, who was attached to the Clintons, marries Alex Soros, the son of George Soros, who was a Jew who worked on behalf of the Nazis. And if you just put all that together, you start to see exactly what she's talking about. This is a cabal of sexual deviants who don't care anything about America. They don't care anything about Christianity. They mock it, and they put people in power that perpetuate it. And I just think it's something that people should pay attention to. You determine whether you believe it or not, but it's something that people should pay attention to. What's going on with I'll leave it there. It was more of a, I just think people have to understand at least contemplate things that are going on in the world in order to understand what we're watching. What's going on? You said you want to talk about grassroots strategies. A lot of people talk about amendments 4 and 5. You and I are both, I think, going to come out and say we're not for amendments 4 and 5, but how do we get our point across for these, for the primaries?
Well, you're starting to see some signs out, right? And some of the grassroots people have asked, hey, where are we going to get signs? And they're kind of missing the point. The point of grassroots is it starts from the individual up. You don't look to the institutions down. So to look and say, well, where are we going to get them is kind of giving up your responsibility. You have to do it. You have to make a sign. Any citizen can make a sign, put in their yard. They can make a T-shirt. That's very effective. Put vote no on 1, 2, 4, and 5, or just 4 and 5. Wear it around Walmart, and someone's going to ask you, and you're going to get in a conversation. And I'm just telling people, I'm challenging people, make your sign. Make your sign, people. I wore my sweatshirt. For those that are listening, it says "We the People." You got to do it. It's
I like that shirt.
Thank you. I had to wear my sweatshirt. It's going to be, thank God I'm inside. I might be a little bit warm with it.
Is this something you guys put together or you just bought?
Yeah, no, we made that one. We created it. Oh, actually, Deanne Poole. So shout out to Deanne Poole for making those eyes.
I like it. Very cool.
Yeah. So you can do the T-shirts or sweatshirts, but it's really up to us. I mean, social media looks really good. Everybody's very engaged, but I think as far as you got to have the dialogue with your neighbor.
Think what a message it would send, though, if people started making their signs, put it in their yard, and then take a picture and put it on social media and say, I'm against 4 and 5. Put it out on social media. That's really going to show people that this is driven by the people, not by the big lobbying groups.
Any group, yeah. And I just don't think the grassroots, I don't think citizens should align with any group. If you're a citizen and you're opposed to this, make your sign and make your statement. Say, you know, I'm a conservative and I'm against 4 and 5. I'm a Republican. I'm against 4 and 5. I'm an independent. I'm against 4 and 5. Whatever or whoever you are, just put it out there. I don't think you have to align with any lobby group, or you don't have to align with Act for Missouri. It's your voice. Use it. And I think we kind of lack a little bit of bravery there. I'm like, let's go.
You don't need help. I was listening to my previous radio station, Real Talk Radio, this morning, and Byron Keelan was on. And he was, I didn't get to 5. I just ran up to the, get some coffee and came back, and I got to hear him talk about Amendment 4. And, you know, we had Ron Calzone on yesterday, who's adamantly against, and he seems very bright to me. And I was listening to Byron this morning, and Byron believes that A4 is a very good thing. He thinks that outside money can come in and buy up our Constitution. And Ron Calzone sold a completely different view of Amendment 4. Just if you could explain it very quickly on Amendment 4, because I was torn on A4 until Ron Calzone kind of confirmed what my gut feeling was telling me. And I think you guys are on the same page. It appears you're on the same page. What is your take just on, you know, what A4 would do, why you're against it? Just very briefly on Amendment 4, what's your take on why you are opposed to it?
Well, I think Ron did a great job yesterday. And the key point is we have certain protections against our government right now. And one of them is our ability to override them. And that's using the initiative petition format. Now, I do agree that it's too easy right now to put any constitutional amendment, whether it comes from initiative petition or it comes from our legislature. But I'm not willing to give up our check on our legislature and our governor. If you look at, they talk about the initiative petitions. Well, there are 5 amendments on the ballot this year between August and November so far. All of them have come from the legislatures. None of them have come from an initiative petition this year. So it's, and we think all of them are bad. So
can I give you a thought process? And I wonder, because I always wonder if my thought process is right, because I really am, I don't get into details as well as I should, because anymore I don't have the time. But I look at the Amendment 4 and I think to myself, the reason we were not able to protect abortion as conservatives. So, I don't know that everybody in the audience has the same view, but let's just, for a moment, let's just recognize that the Republican Party has been against abortion for quite some time, in my understanding, right? Don't we agree that the Republican Party is very,
let's say it's in their, let's say it's in their platform.
It's in their platform.
Right. It's in their platform. So we believe that the Republican Party is pro-life. Why would they give a bill, and why would they let Mary Elizabeth Coleman carry that bill? Mary Elizabeth Coleman, and somebody that knows her very well, gave me inside information that she was a registered Democrat down in Texas. Handed it to me, showed it to me, said, there she is right there. I'm thinking, okay, well, if you're not vetting your candidates and you have a Democrat and that person is controlling the legislation or the IP process that would protect abortion, protect pro-life in the state of Missouri, why would you hand it off to somebody that you think might be a Democrat and have them sabotage their own bill? Because really, they had things the way they wanted to. They are the ones that squandered. The very people that they say should have all the power are the ones that actually sabotaged and did a runaround on abortion in the first place. And then they complain that we have the most liberal abortion policies in America. And I'm thinking, well, aren't you guys the ones that squandered it? I mean, you had a supermajority. If you really wanted to get rid of abortion, don't you think you could have done just a little bit better job of taking care of the business? And I always think it's organized. I'm a conspiracy theorist at that level. What is your take on that? Because they're saying, give us the power. And I'm like, well, you had the power and you squandered it. That's why it was overturned in the first place.
Look, I don't think that we can point to anything that says that they will use the power that they've been given responsibly. We've had a supermajority for 10, 15 years now. Look what we've gotten. We've gotten with our spending has doubled. We failed on IP reform. And when they finally offer it, they offer a version that cuts the people out, but gives them more power. Yeah. And when you're talking about these outside billionaires, again, I will tell you, they aren't going to go away. It'll be much easier for them to go and hire lobbyists and go down to Jeff City and get their way that way. And if we're worried about the Second Amendment being attacked from IPs, well, someday the Democrats are going to have control again. And when they have control, they're going to have these new rules, and they will butcher our Constitution then like we've never seen before. And we will have done it to ourselves once again.
And they completely ignore that, that stance, right? Because they're basically arguing it from a Republican conservative point of view. So I'm just going to take that point of view for now. Exactly what you said. So if you're coming from a Republican conservative point of view, but then the legislature or the General Assembly turns over to Democrat hands, now you don't have a check on them. Correct?
That's correct.
Now you don't have a check on them. So they completely ignore that that's a possibility. Then you had Ron Calzone said yesterday, he said, most of the people that are posing as Republicans, they just have an R in front of their name. They're not Republicans at all. How do we vet these people? How do we know who's going on? How do we understand who's who within the Missouri government if you're really an independent or a Democrat or a Marxist? I assume you guys are Marxists because you're against 4 and 5.
Definitely.
That's the way I understand it too.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make a lot of sense, the argument that they're making. And because there's going to be, Real Talk Radio is going to have a debate tonight, I guess. Are you guys going to that by chance? I would assume, because you're too far away.
Not going. If we can listen, yeah.
We actually are going to Dallas County to do a forum against where we'll be speaking out against Amendment 5 in Dallas County tonight.
Gotcha. Okay, so they're going to put on this presentation somewhere out in O'Fallon, Missouri tonight. They're going to have representatives in there for and against these different amendments. And, I'm trying to figure out, because I was writing down yesterday how I'm going to communicate what People's Lobby Missouri's position is on 4 and 5, because those are the only ones that really are in our lane, right? Are amendments 4 and 5. And I really think, for me, the way I would explain it best is I just flat do not trust the people that have the reins of power in Missouri right now to take more power away from me and give it to them. It really comes down to that. And that was the argument I had on social media with Byron Keelan from Freedom Principle. I said, Byron, I think the difference is you have a lot of trust in the GOP in Missouri right now. I don't have that same trust. And I think I could make an argument as to why I don't have that trust. And I don't think you could give me an argument as to why you do have the trust. I can make the argument why I don't have it. You would have a real tough time explaining why you do trust them because.
Well, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. So their argument, or his argument, because he's pretty much said it, he caught himself in a statement. They don't think that we, the people, should actually have a voice, that we're competent enough to know a good bill from a bad bill. That's what they mean by their mob mentality. I think it means, listen, we know best. You guys just need to settle down, and we'll tell you how we're going to run this show. So when they don't think that the Democrats are going to take over, it makes me think, well, do they know they're going to stay in power somehow?
Right.
I mean, and that takes me to election integrity. I'm like, do they know something that I don't know?
They never really answered that question for me. That's another thing that bums me out a little bit. And then they have he made the statement. He said, now we have marijuana baked into our Constitution. Our Constitution, not that you made it legal, but it's baked into the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And all he goes, and then, they're coming right behind it with gambling. He goes, Democrats, he was kind of aligning Democrats and gambling. And I'm thinking to myself, well, Isaiah can attest to it.
Totally tied to the Republicans. What are they talking about?
All the money that's coming in, all the money coming in from the gambling industry is going to the Republican leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, $1 million already into their coffers.
Yeah. And again, as Ron pointed out yesterday, they've had many years to get the IP right to fix. Actually, we shouldn't be even calling it IP. We should be talking about amending our Constitution, the process that we do that. Mm-hmm. And it's more than just IP. It's how they do it too, because it should be more difficult for them as well. Our Constitution shouldn't be changed on a whim, but
from anyone.
But,
General
Assembly
or the
as
people.
far as what's in it now, the Republicans have been in power the whole time. All these things have been added that they're complaining about. What were they doing? What was our party doing? Our party didn't get out and fight marijuana.
They
didn't fight against it.
No, so the Republican Central Committees never. I mean, I got wind of it very late. I don't know where we were at where from Missouri was at during that time. But when I realized what was going on, I looked to the Republican Party for literature, marketing, advertising, signs, absolutely nothing. Republican Central Committees, nothing. Republican Party, nothing. I'm going to take that back to A3 in 2024 because I just listened to them, Tom Estes, stand there and blame IP reform. I'm like, where the heck was the Republican Party in 2024? We only lost that by less than 2%. Had we gotten engaged and gotten out, we could have beat that.
We had people that were wanting to go door knock, that needed the apps for their phones, that wanted to make phone calls, that wanted signs. And it was mid-September before we could get a good supply of that information to get things going. And so, if we would have started, if they would have had their act together from the beginning, they should have had their act together earlier that year.
But how could they not have their act together? They knew that it was coming down from the federal, that it was gonna. And so Missouri Right to Life failed miserably. They have one issue and one issue only: abortion. They should have seen that federal decision coming down the line and said, "We've got our game plan. We're going after it."
Even after that,
they stood down.
Even after that, once they saw that was going to be on the ballot, they waited months before they really mounted any kind of serious campaign against it. And by then, and in the end, we end up losing by just less than 2%, even with the current rules. So for the GOP needs to stand up and start taking responsibility for these things themselves instead of doing this, where every time they stand up for this now, they try to take more power from the people. And that really bothers me as being a Republican, that my party would be a part of that.
Yeah. And that's the one that really caught me was I see Kurt Linderman's talking about the marijuana laws. And I thought, libertarians are fine with marijuana to be decriminalized. That was really the original argument when they talked about the marijuana. Should you be putting people in prison for marijuana? That was the original argument. Now it's baked into the Constitution, and that happened under Republican leadership. No matter how you slice it up, that happened under Republican leadership. And we have an advertiser on the show, John Grady, and he says not only did they boxed me out of my business, which he was a hemp farmer. He said they boxed me out of my business so that they could give all their buddies the power to have a monopoly on marijuana. And even I think it was Mike Coslow. He's a House rep out in the O'Fallon area. I was on social media going back and forth with him, just quizzing him. And he said, he called it a marijuanopoly. A marijuanopoly, I think is the way he described it. And I said, yeah. I said, with Republicans, that's the whole point. I'm missing the argument, and I just wonder if these people that are proponents of 4 and 5 have thought through this, number one, or number two, maybe there's just a little bit more going on behind the scenes. It feels to me, and that's why I asked Ron Calzone yesterday, and I'm not saying that it is, but it just makes me wonder the way they sell it, if there is an incentive to get this through legislation, to get these things passed. Are they, because they're selling it, like when you remember when they used to knock on your door and sell you vacuum cleaners? It feels like vacuum cleaner salespeople selling this thing all day long. If I look at social media, it's nonstop and it's just completely ridiculous. There's no real debate, intellectual conversation about, wait a minute, you're saying trust this, trust this, trust this, trust this. And I'm telling you, why would I trust it when XYZ has happened over the last 20 years? You guys are the ones that have had the reins of power in this state forever. Why are you now saying that you have to take power away from the citizens and give it to a legislature that nobody trusts? I mean, the grassroots certainly don't trust them. Why are you all of a sudden trustworthy of the General Assembly run by Republicans in Jefferson City? And nobody will answer that question. It's very interesting that nobody addresses all of the things that they've done that nobody agrees with. They won't even address that. They just say, in order to stop the Democrats, it's the Democrats. Stop it. And it seems like be honest with you, it seems like a little bit of a con to me. It just does. I don't know that it's the way it is, but it feels like a con to me.
I agree. It feels like a con to me too.
It's just, selling too hard. You know what I mean? It's
selling too hard.
Too hard. It's like you're talking, and what they're doing, which is brilliant. I hope they continue. They've talked them into the cell, and they're talking themselves right out of the cell, because the more desperate they get, they're starting to lie more. They're starting to embellish more. With the whole thing, it doesn't suspend the handcuff. So what they are trying to say is they don't use the word Hancock in the bill, so that means we're not suspending it. That is a bullshit lie, because 18E is in there. Now, we can label it whatever you want. If you want to call it Cracker Barrel, you want to call it Hancock, you want to call it Joe Schmo, 18E, it doesn't matter. It does suspend the citizens' right to vote.
It has to, or they wouldn't have to put it on the ballot.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the truth. And so they're starting to get further and further because they're desperate. They're getting desperate, and that desperation is showing. And the citizens, kudos, have paid attention. And every social media post, it's like, no. There's some hardcore Republicans are like, I have to do what they say because I can't think for myself. Right. Well, all right. Okay. I mean, there's going to be, but I think the citizens have done the work, and they're out there. I believe in you guys. So just keep going and make your sign.
I gotta ask you this, Isaiah. If you're there, did you see the language that Isaiah put out yesterday? He said he talked to some of the Republican legislators that are for A5, and he showed them what the Secretary of State's language was about the bill.
Yeah.
You have that, Isaiah? I just think that's so fantastic. He said that somebody reposted that and said they heard it on the show, and I said that's so beautiful, because Isaiah is good at getting into the research and the nitty gritty. That's why I love him. We're a perfect match together, because he digs down into the weeds, and I'm from 30,000 feet just going, wait a minute, I see it this way, and it feels like if I get down into the details, it would explain why I see this the same exact way from 30,000 feet. Right? It's bottom. All of the details, and from the top, you see the result of all of their legislation. You go, well, these things have to be.
Good job, SAR at Bomb 72.
SAR. Yep.
Nice job. Nice job.
Done.
Yep. So she put this out there after the show yesterday.
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that change.
Yeah. Read that, Isaiah, so people, if they can't see it, if their eyes are bad.
So this is the. Can I blow it up here? Yeah. Okay. Great. This is the before language, right? The proposal has no direct impact on state or local tax revenue. If passed, implementing legislation will have an unknown impact to state and local tax revenue. If implemented, state government entities expect a reduction of $57,000 annually in income tax, checkoff donations, and implementation costs of at least $100,000. That was before the Supreme Court made them change the language to, at this time, the impact on taxes is unknown. And when I asked Senator Brown and Representative Davidson about this, I guess they didn't know that the ballot language changed, because they were like, what? let me see that. And I had to pull it up and show them.
What was their reaction, Isaiah?
They were taken off. It's easy for me to read when someone's didn't expect that. You know what I mean?
Step back on their heels a little bit. Yeah.
Yep. And I was able to do it as after the presentation, and as we're kind of people are. I was talking with James and Oscar from Show Me Sentinel. You know, I was talking with them a little bit and letting the crowd die down. And because Representative Davidson, I'll give him credit, he was very cordial to me and wanted to talk to me about these things. And so, but when I brought this up, he's like, "What? I don't know about that." And I had to pull it up on my phone and show them that it said that. They didn't believe me. And I showed them that, and they were like, "Oh," and I could see the wheels start spinning, right? And he's like, "Oh, that's because of this, this, and this, and this, this, and this." And it didn't make sense to me, but I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." And then I just said sure because I wanted to get Senator Brown before he left. And so then I went and asked Senator Brown, and he didn't really have an answer. You know, he's like, "That's why I'm here, you know, just to talk to the people. I just want them to have all the information, essentially." And so it's something that I don't think all of them know. I don't even know that they realize. It seemed that they didn't even know that the Secretary of State puts this out at all, which was surprising.
I don't. Yeah, they got it.
I don't believe that, but the way they were acting made it seem that way.
Yeah.
And I wonder too. You know, I asked yesterday, and Ron did not really want to delve into it. I could tell, so I didn't want to press him on it. But you know, I look at the structure of things. Right. So if you're running a business, and I think Missouri is a business, I always call it Missouri Inc. jokingly. Hi, SARS. SARS said, "Oh, you made mention of my post. There you go." But I said, you know, it seems to me like if it's Missouri Inc. and it's just it runs like a corporation, it actually runs like a corporation. So think of your state government. If you've ever been in a big corporation, you know how they work, right? So you go, okay, the CEO or the governor says, in order to appease my shareholders or my voters,
lobbyists,
right? My lobbyists. Well, in this particular, he's trying to appease the voters originally because he says I want to get rid of the state income tax. No,
Okay.
You're conservative, right? Or you're the shareholders of this particular company, and they say they want to get rid of the state income tax. You go, oh, nice.
That's why all the social media influencers are pushing it right now, like DC Drano and everyone.
Correct.
Have you seen that? How the large MAGA influencers are pushing Governor Kehoe and saying how he's cutting income tax.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
They are propping up
word.
Governor Kehoe at the national level. They got big plans for Governor Kehoe. Just remember that. Now, remember what Governor Kehoe is.
Here first on the Rob Carter show.
That's what we started with the show. He's a Mason. And Kate Griggs, Masons are in charge. That's what she said.
Right,
okay,
right,
so he is a Mason. So now you have Sean Spicer, you have the national media coming out and praising Governor Kehoe. But back there, because I want to get your guys' opinion on this, because I think you guys are a little bit more savvy than me. But I'm just looking at it going, wait a minute, is this how this whole works? You have the governor come out and say he wants to get rid of income taxes. Voters who are conservative go, okay, great, we're going to get rid of income taxes. But you have a shortfall. You've spent the budget away, right? You've spent all this money. You got half of your budget coming in from the federal government. So now I have to come up with some way to get rid of income taxes, but not lose the revenue. And you go, okay, not only do I not want to lose the revenue, I have to make up for the shortfall, as they said yesterday, of 1.2. No, it wasn't Calzone that said this. This was McCarty. He said they have to make up the other 1.2 billion. So this allows them the freedom to suspend the Hancock Amendment.
Nope, doesn't say Hancock.
Whatever,
Say
you know.
doesn't say it.
But you know what we're saying. And all of a sudden, you're basically selling, and you're using the players within the Republican Party. So you want to get rid of income taxes. You say, guys, I want you to write it like this. We'll give you these think tanks. You'll go to ALEC or wherever these people go to, and they get legislation. Okay, here's the way we want to structure it. We don't want to lose revenue, guys. We can't lose revenue, but we want to tell the people of Missouri that we're getting rid of the income tax. Here's the way we're going to structure it. And then they go out and they write the legislation, and then they have to go out and sell this to the people of Missouri. Is that because it just feels exactly like corporation? CEO says, okay, here are all my key account executives. Here's my executive committee. This is what we want to get done. You guys come up with a plan to get it done. You'll give me that plan. I'll endorse that plan. Then you go out and you sell it to everybody, right? And then if you sell it, there's going to be an incentive for you because the CEO is the one putting this position in place, or the governor. And then there's an incentive if you get the job done. That's the way it feels to me, because I think the arguments, not that they're not debating. I'm very appreciative of Ben Brown, of Ben Keithley, of all these people. I'm not mad at them. They may actually believe everything they're saying, but from a corporate standpoint and Missouri Inc. standpoint, it looks to me like that is the structure. Governor, He picks his most articulate people underneath him, his soldiers, if you will, to come up with the legislation. They write it under a scenario that we can't lose the revenue, but we got to get rid of income taxes. And then those people that are really good at articulating and arguing and giving talking points, they go out and sell it. Then you have the grassroots community, the Freedom Principles of the World, the Americans for Prosperity, Missouri Promise. They come in with a marketing campaign to sell it. So they look like they're grassroots, not aligned with the Republican Party, but they work simultaneously and they work together and they sell this to the people of Missouri. Does that sound about right to you guys? Do you think I'm missing anything there? It feels like
I think it actually goes deeper.
Go for it. I want to know.
So here's where my thinking is on all this right now, because I go back to last summer. Last summer, me and Amy were going around the state following the property tax, the special committee on property tax. And we spent hours either in person or watching it and dissecting it. And everything was talking about, we've got to fix the property tax problem. And they're talking about all the legislation we're going to see the next session. We get to this last session that followed that. And from the start, the governor brings up income tax. Well, my thought on that too is the fact that we've been spending $50 billion plus for the last several years, and they want to keep that spending. Nobody's talking about cutting anything. In fact, now we're being told, well, we can't. We really, we can only really have effect on about $15 billion of our budget. Well, if that's the case, then we need to be figuring out how we get out of that mess, because we can't keep this level up. And I think this was all coming back to the powers that be got together and said, we got to figure out something, because we don't want to cut spending. We can't really do anything with property tax that they want to do, but we got to give the people something. And so they said, well, income tax then. And I think that was their out. And I think they came up with the way to do this. And again, it does say that any new taxes on consumption taxes or sales taxes, any expansion has to be applied to the income tax. And they have to put it in the same bill, but they don't have to do it at the same time. And like Ray McCarthy was talking yesterday, he kind of confirmed my theory there that, yeah, we're going to have a period of time where we're going to have double taxation, where they're going to have to see how much of the new sales tax revenue we bring in so they can know how much to reduce. Well, they could play that out for 2 or 3 years or more. And that gives them another window to try to figure out some other way to keep the spending high. And that's my jaded thinking from spending probably too much time up there at the swamp, but that's where I'm at right now.
What's your background, Mike Compton? What was your original profession?
I started out as a network technician and engineer, and owned an internet service provider. And I've also I sold that company, and then I went into research and worked in a neuroscience lab for about 10 years. So
you're not a moron.
Yeah, right.
Well, I guess it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
I've watched your work, and I think you're a very bright guy. And I think that when you're a researcher, right? If that's what your profession is, you look into the details, you kind of understand what's going on because you're researching something. That gives you a leg up on people that are just reading it. They really don't know what they're reading. That's me. I'm just being honest. When I read the first iteration of this A5, I read it on the air the way it was originally done, and I said, who could possibly understand what's going on here? I mean, I don't even have any idea what this is saying to me. I'm not I'd have to be an attorney to understand what's going on.
When this bill was taking shape, Representative Davidson did call. We spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours on the phone. He gave me his pitch for it. We went through the whole bill, and I just kept picking at it, and because my belief is they don't put anything in the bill without having a reason for it. And so I kept, he kept saying, well, we don't have to worry about the Hancock Section 18E. He said, he just kept trying to reassure me on that, but I knew there was a reason for it. And my mind works like, well, I got to figure out what it is they're trying to do here. And that's the only explanation I could come up with for why it's in there, because when they're making their pitch, they're always saying revenue neutral. As Amy pointed out last week, revenue neutral is not in this bill, not written anywhere. It's substantially equal. But that being said, if it was revenue neutral, then the Section 18E would never hit, because
never need to be in there.
It takes you take your tax increases and tax decreases, and if they come back to zero or within that margin that Ben Keithley was talking about, then it doesn't have to go back to the people. It only goes back to the people if it exceeds that margin. So the fact that they left it in there means that they absolutely know that they're going to exceed that margin. And if they have to make up at least $9 billion, and if you take what McCarty said yesterday on your show, that we got to add in that 1.2 billion that's the deficit, you're already up to over 10, 11, getting close to $12 billion that they're going to have to make up. And that far exceeds the $150 million threshold for triggering Section 18E.
Yeah, and it was so funny because you were the first one that brought it to my attention. So you brought it to my attention. I was talking to Ray yesterday. I'm like, as soon as he said when he was going through what was going on, I'm like, that's exactly what Mike said, because he said, there's going to be a time there where you are getting
double taxation. Yeah,
double taxation. He said a tax on tax. This would just crack me up because I make jokes about that all the time. But you get the tax, right? Oh, my speaker sounds loud. You get the income tax coming in, and then now you get the additional sales and usage taxes, and for an amount of time they get both. Mm-hmm. Right, which is what you were trying to say earlier. For amount of time,
which might be enough to allow them to keep spending close to $50 billion a year without making the cuts. So if we really want to send them a message, let's tell them to go back and figure out how they're going to cut spending before we give them any new taxes. Yeah. Or make any changes, because if we don't, we're going to end up being taxed to death because we can't maintain this level of spending for much longer.
Missouri Inc. does like to spend money, and I thought it was so interesting because I look at things. You guys may not have heard my show early on. When I started really doing the podcast early on, I started seeing the political. I used to call them con jobs. I said, I grew up in an area and around certain people that ran cons on people. I was doing it at the age of 10, 11 years old. I have a buddy that might be listening to the show today. His name's Derek. I was running around in the North County. My dad was a drinker, right? So I'm in bars and I'm around people that are gambling all the time, and I'm watching kind of the underbelly of society up close and personal. And I got the idea of how cons worked. And my buddy of mine, Derek, and we used to do this at 10, 11, 12 years old. We would go to, it was called the St. Anne Community Center. I think it's probably still there, over in North County. And we were good basketball players. He was 6 foot tall when he was 12 years old. And, I was this little kid, but I played basketball from a really early age. I was good. And we would see grown men playing out there that weren't very good. We recognized they couldn't shoot. Derek was big enough to handle him. He was huge for that age. And we would say, hey, you want to play us? We didn't have any money. We were poor kids. Say, hey, we didn't even have any money. If we lost, we couldn't even pay them. We'd say, hey, you want to play for $5? And they would look at us and they would, like, grown men are like, shit. And we would act like we weren't very good. We'd be shooting and missing this thing. And then when the game would play, right, I would run off a pick. I would shoot. Derek was big enough and we would always win. It was a con. We would act like we couldn't play, and then we'd beat them, and they would get all frustrated because they were grown men losing to 10 and 12-year-olds. Growing up in that environment and just kind of recognizing the construct of a con job, as I watch the Missouri government, it does feel to me like and I'm not saying that everybody involved, like a Bishop Davidson, who I think is well-intentioned, a Ben Keithley, I think is well-intentioned. This is not about them. This is about the people that put the process into place, and they kind of know what's going to happen. And I think it feels to me multiple different times like they are pulling the wool over the voters, over the grassroots, over the Republican Party. But the Republican Party is so well connected in the leadership end of it that they don't want to recognize it. They don't want to believe it. They just can't understand it. We have to fight against the Democrats. And it seems like it's a never ending cycle to me. Does it feel that way to you at all? Or is it just my skepticism?
No,
Amy could probably speak to the sociology.
It's funny. I was looking at Amy when I was saying that, because I know that's Amy's background.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I mean, part of it, you have to say there are systems and structures in society, right? No matter what we look at, whether it be corporatism, corporations, business, you've always got a hierarchy. You've got somebody in control giving the orders or giving the direction. Military, I mean, that's just a societal structure. We have to have it. Now, societal structures, of course, can get modified to a negative or, kept in a more positive light, but that's where it goes to your morals and your, Christianity that you have to follow in order to keep your morality and your ethics. I mean, military people face this all the time when they're in, war zones. They're given the command, yet what is the morality, and do morals come into play in that kind of scenario? So in politics, yes, I think we have to think about that. But as we've gotten further and further away from our Christian values, I think it's become easier and easier to take the almighty dollar or make a compromise. Are there some really, truly, like you said, evil people in there, with just rotten cores? That's in all society. So yeah, there probably is.
Unscrupulous is the way I'd put it.
Yeah, unscrupulous.
I don't know that they're evil necessarily, but it's
No, there's
best for
people that are
me.
evil.
They probably
I
are,
agree.
but I'm saying I think some of these people are, it's best for me. This makes a lot of sense. I can hide behind this because this is what Republican leadership is going to, perpetuate, and I can hide behind that, and it is what it is, and we'll just fix whatever we have to fix later on down the line.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on a term limit, so it's going to be somebody else that gets the wrath of these.
Well, or if it's become your job, right? If it's no different than a corporate America, right? What do they always say? CYA. Yeah. CYA. Cover your ass. So you make your little notes, you put it in the file, or you have little pieces here and there that you keep, because when your position comes on the, the cutting block, or you're faced with, you have to justify why you stay or why your budget gets cut. You got all that going on. Well, now politicians are career. That's a career. So now they're like, okay, I need to get reelected. I need to maybe make more money for my kid. He's going to go to college. So how are you going to, where you do that in corporate America, moving around, now you're in a political scenario where you have to do that.
Amen. All right. You guys have anything else? Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
One more point related to that is, and a warning for the people to consider. We keep talking about principle over party, or the other side of that is party over principle. How did the Democrat Party move from the party of Kennedy, and you can argue whether that was good or not, but to where they are today is because their people in the party put the party over principle. Well, I'm starting to see our Republicans doing the same thing, and the results aren't going to be good either for our party either. So I just put that as a wake up call for our own people.
Absolutely.
And I want to add too. I mean, a lot of people, I think, as this has become more popular and people are like, Act for Missouri is and there's a lot of questions about who we are and what we do. Mike and I, when we started, we were like, what's the truth? We were like, what does this bill mean? And we just started looking at the bills and saying, what exactly does this mean? And much like you said, Rob, it's a lot of legalese. It's hard to dig through. So we're like, are we really getting the truth? Or let's really understand this. As we realized, this is really hard to understand. It's done on purpose. We felt an obligation to break it down, to make it, because I told them, I said, how are your average citizens who's working 60 hours a week, 2 children, a house, all these bills, how are they ever going to break this down? I said, okay, we've got the skill set to do this. Let's figure out, how do we get this so everybody can understand it, because we're being taken advantage of and it's not right. And it's like, how do we empower citizens to, be a part of that process and make sure, because it just seems like it's getting worse and worse. And, I really was optimistic and thought, the conservatives or the Republican Party is the place to be. I mean, I went from independent, I think I was a registered independent for a while, to being a registered Republican, and I was all gung-ho. And then I thought, they're awful. They're just as bad.
It's funny you say that, because I was listening to my buddy Jim Gale. He's running for president down in Florida, and he went into a Home Depot, and he handed them I don't know if he's suing them or what he's doing, and he's basically trying to remind those people. He's trying to get a kind of a little bit of a publicity. I wouldn't say a stump, but trying to bring awareness to it. He said, he is big into, we're getting sick because our government is given way to corporate power.
Yes.
Right. Water
Yes.
rights, energy rights, what's in our food, the whole thing. So he goes in and he serves them with papers, and he comes out and he does this video. And, the thing he said at the very end of it, because you said you were an independent, and this is the problem I think that we have, people like you, people like me, people like Isaiah, is I think in traditional terms, we see ourselves as conservative Republicans. I think in traditional terms, that's the way we see ourselves. I don't know that I have a party there anymore. It's like the old saying that I didn't leave the party left me. That's kind of the way I feel is what's going on here. And I don't, again, this is not about personal, because I know some people are going to hear that, oh, Robb's, I don't mean that at all. I'm just saying that the party leadership doesn't align with the way I see the world at all anymore. And the problem we have is, in this world, if you don't see yourself as a Democrat and you don't see yourself as a Republican, we can't organize in between those two. And he said at the very end of the statement that he put out yesterday, and it's a quote from Martin Luther King, and I'll butcher it, but maybe Isaiah can find it. He said, we must learn how to, he goes, if we must learn how to organize for peace in the same manner that those who organize for war do. Organize for war all day long. You can see that happening all over. That's why I was talking about Fox News earlier. You can organize for war all day long, but the people do not organize for peace. And the independents, the people in the middle of these two parties that go, wait a minute, neither one of these parties really satisfies what I'm looking for. There's no organization between those two. So when you go out and you complain about the Democrat Party or the Republican Party, it's almost like there's a ton of people that are in the same mindset, but they're not organized. I can't get on social media and go, here are my independent thoughts. It's the independent party. It's the, it's the whatever. There's nothing there like that. It's either you're in the Republican Party or you're in the Democrat Party. And if you don't have a home, you just got to keep your mouth shut because there's really no backing for you. Do you know what I'm saying? I just feel like there needs to be something that is different from the Democrat and Republican Party that's a little bit more honest with voters, to where those people are organized so that they can say, wait a minute, this is what your two-party system that I believe is one party.
Yeah, so I think those in part of the parties, if you're a party, you need to be a watchdog for your own party. And that's what we do. And Democrats need to do the same thing. They're not perfect. They've got plenty of fraud. They could find all of this stuff on their side. It's just they got to be brave enough to look at it. And they're busy fighting the true socialists and communists. So I know there are Democrats over there going like, who are these wackadoodles in our party that are absolutely destroying everything? Now, I don't know. Maybe they are completely taken over and are democratic socialist. I do feel like they may have crossed a line there. They may not be able to get their party back, but more power to them.
All right.
But we're over here.
Got to tell us what's going on Saturday night, because I got another guest that I got to bring on. I promised him. I made fun of Bitcoin one day, and he got mad at me, and he said, "Rob, you're wrong about Bitcoin." I said, "I'll bring you on," because I actually mentioned his name. He said, "You mentioned my name. The least you can do is have me on." I said, "I'll have you on. I promise."
True.
But I want to make sure that people are aware of what you're doing on Saturday night, number one, and then Mike, I want to make sure, Isaiah, if you're there, will you please put up his book? Every chance I get, I want to promote your book. I think this is where we align, right there. This is where we align. If we want to keep our republic, we have got to get involved. You just have to get involved.
I'm this far through it.
Right? You don't have to spend your entire life being involved with government, but you should have some understanding of how our system works, what your responsibility to keep this thing free for the next generation. What is your responsibility? If people just ignore it, which is very difficult to get people to move, you guys got to know how difficult that is being involved in politics. It's very difficult to get people to recognize that anything is sliding off the cliff until it's too late. It's just the way human nature is. I say keeping the republic is a must read, and I think you should be pushing that through the General Assembly, because keeping the republic, written by somebody who's a researcher from Missouri, this should be in our schools. This should be in our libraries. They should be buying a ton of books from you, so this gets out to our children. And the Republican Party should be right on board with what you're trying to get across, because if the Republican Party doesn't convince young voters that they have to pay attention to this republic in order to keep it, then I don't know that I'm in alignment with anything the Republican Party does. What say you?
Robin, as far as this book goes, this, for your other out-of-state listeners that are like, oh, it's always about Missouri, this book is about the United States as a country.
This is not
this country. It's going to be state by state. So I don't care what state you're in, pay attention, read the book, and get engaged.
I may buy a bunch of books from you, Mike, and sell them myself, make a little money for the People's Lobby. I might just buy them directly from you.
There.
I'm serious. I think I could sell those books. I think it's I think
any person, any state. This isn't about the book's not about Missouri. It's about the country.
Amen.
Yeah, I wrote this book from our experience of trying to figure out how to get people involved, and realizing that people don't realize that they should be involved. And it's not Missouri specific at all. It's about anywhere in the country. It's about being a citizen of this country wherever you're at. And, it gives you ways that that you can get involved, the things you can do that everybody can do.
And it explains principles, that are really good, and they're clear and they're easy. It's not a complicated read, even though I know Mike's research can look very complicated. The book is not. He's done a great job of keeping that to the average. I'm always like, remember, average person, Brainiac over here.
I gotta say, just as somebody's getting to know you too, Mike, I'm very proud of you for that book, man. I think it's a really great thing that you did there. I think it will live. It'll be your legacy, right? Because that book will live on long after you're gone. And I think that people need to recognize that we have a society to protect. It's the greatest nation in the world. I think we all agree this is the greatest country. I absolutely love it. I've said, I've been to countries, and I went to the UK not too long ago. I absolutely had a great time. I've been to Japan. I've been to Europe. I've been to I've been everywhere. I love coming home. There's something
great
special about the
comment
United
on
States.
Jeffrey there. Great
Yeah.
comment. A threat
keep
to
it.
freedom anywhere is a threat to freedom everywhere.
Well, and Rob, your and Isaiah's book shipped out yesterday, so you should have them by this
week.
week.
Thank you. Tell them what you're doing Saturday before we cut the show.
Online discussion.
I think it to you.
Yep. So just come to our Facebook, our Rumble page, or X, and you'll find us there. It's just going to be an open discussion. Ask questions. We're going to be talking about what's on the ballot, things that you can be asking candidates as they come around. Just an open discussion on what's coming up on August 4th.
So, and that is Saturday
at 6:30 p.m.
6:30 on anchormo.org.
Yep.
Okay.
Come on. Let's talk.
There it is. And then Isaiah, if you don't mind, if you can find it, I think I sent it to you and I completely forgot about it. I do want to promote what they're doing at Real Talk Radio. I don't know that they're big fans of mine anymore, but I do like what they're trying to do. And Tracy and I, when I was working there, I know that it's a big deal to her. She wants to bring conversation to the table, but whether they like what I have to say or not is irrelevant. I know that in her heart of hearts, and I know Rick's heart of hearts, and everybody that works there, they want to be the leader in creating conversation about what goes on in Missouri. And from that perspective, I support them 100%. So if we can find their literature for tonight, because tonight, if you're anywhere near O'Fallon, you want to get out there, I think it's free of charge. They have a cash bar, and they're going to have an open discussion about amendments 3, 4, 5, local politics, data centers. I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm not going to go. I don't know that I feel comfortable in that particular environment. Plus, I have Bible study tonight. I got to learn about what's going on with the Lord. But I got to say that I think people, if you can get there, be great for, if you can bring if you have a child in high school or something, get them involved in the political environment, get them to see what people have to say and think through issues so they can start to think for themselves. I think as a parent, this is something that I didn't do, and I'm mad at myself for not doing it, but you got to get your kids involved with what's going on in the world around them.
Does it say who's going to be on here? No.
I think Bishop Davidson's going to be there. The Shield Maidens are going to be there.
It's
I heard a rumor that Ron going to be there. Is that true?
I did hear that Ron Calzone was going to be there. I'm not sure of that, but if Ron Calzone's there, it'd be fantastic, because then it shows you what Real Talk is trying to do, because Ron Calzone is a very influential person against Amendment 4, and he's going to be talking to people that have been selling Amendment 4 really, really hard. And I think that's what makes for a great conversation.
I just want to encourage 93.3 to not bow down to the pressure. I know I think they've received some. The idea when you do a debate is to make it fair.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody gets more time. Nobody purposely gets put last. There's a lot of shenanigans. We're dealing with our own. We've been asked to go to a community to debate against Form 5, but the proponent, who's a board member of Freedom Principle, is making all these, well, I was invited, and so I should be able to determine the rules, and I don't want it this way, and I want it that way, and I want it this way. And so we've spent a week going back and forth with the stipulations in order to have this debate. It's maddening, right? Keep it fair.
I hope they keep it fair. I guarantee there'll be people that.
If they're so right in their position, why do they need all these stipulations?
Well, this is the thing. So normally the person that is opposed, right, Mike, because it goes first.
Well, normally if you're talking about an amendment, you would think you want people to hear the person that's supporting it first. What's good about this before you hear what's wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, they want it inverted. They want us to go first and say what's wrong with it, and then they want to follow up and tell everybody what's right with it.
I
see.
And
again, it's freedom. I mean, I'm just going to call it out. It's Freedom Principle, and these criteria, they did it the same way with West Scroggins, with just outlandish, we got to do it under this criteria, and if you lose, you have to forfeit all your PAC money to the nonprofit of your choice. It's like, okay, guys, if you really have substance, then stand on it, right?
This is really, they're losing sight of what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to be educating the people about their options and let them decide. And that's what it's going to be for us. We're going to present our opinions on it, and we're going to let the people decide.
And the facts are on our side.
I think that's where
I just got texted a list of the speakers for tonight at the Real Talk
awesome
radio show. So there's going to be obviously Bishop Davidson's going to be there, Stacy Shore, Lisa Panett, Bill Eigel, Steve Ellman, Jay Law, Trisha Burns, someone from Freedom Principle is going to be there. Kurt Barr, Jen Olson, Michelle McBride, Erica Bridges, Tanya Mum, and Ron and Ann Calzone.
Nice.
So all those people.
That's a great.
I highly recommend that people go check that out. I mean, that's a great lineup with some really good people involved in that situation. So get out there, hear from both sides, ask the right questions.
Dang, wish we could be there. We'll be in Dallas County.
If anybody is listening that listens to the show, if you're going, will you please do me a favor? And if you get it on video, I'll give you I'll make it worth your while. Either I'll give you a gift.
I wonder if the Shield Maidens will be streaming it.
No, I don't think so, because they're on the panel.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
But
It's got to have to be somebody not on the panel.
Yeah, I want somebody to ask about Jeffrey Winehouse. I want every time these people are out in the public, I want them to be, because here's the trust issue, right? I happen to know for 100% certain that Jeffrey Winehouse, I've talked to him a lot. I talked to Jeffrey Winehouse a lot. He was railroaded. You have an innocent man sitting in prison that can prove it with a videotape that he took.
Oh, Donna's gone.
They crossed about 10 different lines of constitutional rights for this poor guy. They tried to take him out in prison already. I mean, he had to have his face cut off. Jeffrey Winehouse is a political prisoner in Missouri, and the only person that can save him is Mike Kehoe. And I just think it's obnoxious that they know that this man should not be in prison. He's in prison for shooting somebody. I mean, he didn't even got a gun out of his holster. He didn't shoot anybody, and nobody even says that he shot anybody. Yet that is the sentence that they have him in prison for 30 years. It's just absurd and ridiculous and deflating to anybody that believes in justice. And I would like somebody to go in and say, why is Jeff Winehouse in prison, and why aren't you guys doing something about it? Because at this point, there has to be a political solution. They've run it through the courts. So I already went to the Supreme Court. All of the testimony, everything involved is fraudulent. And this poor guy sits in prison, and I want to get him out of prison. I just want him out. It'll be
I think you need to start calling it Missouri Gulag instead of prison.
Yeah.
Seriously,
it's such.
Chances are. I mean, they're tied in somehow, right? What was the story he had?
He thinks that Jay Nixon was originally behind it. He thinks that the Masons are involved in it because I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he thinks some of the people that he was going after were in so-called societies, and they decided that they were not going to let him talk too much more because he was getting very aggressive with them. So they gave a cockamamie scheme to go in and take his phones and his computers away from him. And then when they found out what was on those phones and computers, that didn't sit very well. They were going to arrest him, and in order to arrest him, they had to bring him out into the middle of nowhere. They were out of their jurisdiction. Everything they did was illegal, and then shot the man 4 times from point blank range, and he's the one that's in prison. And all of the people that were involved in that, they should be tried. Let's put it to you that way. Everybody involved in that situation, top to bottom, should be tried, because when you videotape something and there's no question as to what actually happened, and the man still sits in prison, and there's no political solution from the Republican Party, you have to raise an eyebrow and go, what's going on around here? At least for me.
And if you don't think that it resonates with people, we have a Instagram account that we just created for the show. It's less than 20 days old. We posted a video 3 days ago with Democrat Rep Michael Burton about the story of Jeffrey Winehouse. That's 56,000 views on Instagram.
Wow.
We only have 250 followers right now on Instagram, and that's 56,000 views. That's the only video that we have that's like that, and it's the story of Jeff Winehouse.
There you go.
I think it makes Mike and I scared too. I mean, it's like, wow, this guy went, then we say, we're going for the gulag. We're going to.
Well, it's what we do. We challenge power. And if you challenge power, and this is what can happen when you challenge power, then it certainly makes it a little bit nervous for you, your family, and everybody else. And it shouldn't be that way in America. It just should not be that way.
It shouldn't be. All right, let's look into that Bitcoin. I want to learn about that.
I do too. Amy Castro, Michael Compton, Act 4 Mo. If you want to check them out on Saturday night at 6:30. First of all, make your signs no on 4 and 5 in your yard. Carry them around.
I saw my first one in Union. You'll be happy to hear that.
I saw a couple too, but they're from leftist organizations, and I don't want to sign.
I did see a leftist organization one too, but I did see a homemade one.
Because I am a conservative, and I want to make my own sign.
Yes.
Amen to that. All right, you guys have a great day.
All right, take care, guys.
6:30 on Saturday, act4mo.org. Join in the conversation. They'll be live 6:30 this Saturday, act4mo.org. Go to their website and join the conversation. We'll see you soon, you guys. Have a great weekend. All right. Isaiah, I got to do some advertising. And then is Ben on yet?
He is not.
Let me find out.
And I do have to leave at noon because we're going to the Science Center today.
Okay, we'll be quick here. Let me get my advertising in, and then he can. He said he doesn't have a link.
Yeah, I see it right here. You have it. It's the same. Go Murphy at yahoo.com.
Yep. So
At 9:19 a.m.
we can do
Send your email too, Rob.
All right, let's do
here.
Let's do joneswater.com. Do you have that? I want to put the Jones.
Water.
Do you have his little thing? I got to send it to you.
I don't.
I'm going to
send it over though. I can throw it up real easily.
Let me do that real fast.
And keeping the Republic. I will say that keepingtherepublicbook.com, keepingtherepublicbook.com. That's the website for Mike Compton's book. We didn't say that while we were talking about it. So I just wanted to shout that out. Keepingtherepublicbook.com. I had a hard time finding it because I didn't realize you had to add book there at the end of Keeping the Republic. And so.
Gotcha.
And it's a new website. So when you Google things that are new, it's hard to find them. You know?
Where's his little thing you sent me? Everett.
Get too many text messages or something, Rob?
I don't know where he would have sent it. Yeah, we're on a text. Well, I'm going to give him an advertisement and then I'll find it from him. I know he's got a $250 sale and I hate not to promote it because he wants me to. All right. Well, let's joneswater.com, joneswater.com. He does have a sale on water and I believe air filtration systems, April Air and air filtration system and a water filtration system.
Just call him and ask for the Rob Carter special. That's what you got to do.
Special, exactly. But outside of that, you know my situation with Everett Jones. I think if you don't have clean air and clean water, you're not going to be healthy. It's really that simple.
Aren't you experiencing that this morning? Weren't you?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I go through it all the time. You know, I told you before, I got into my buddy's house. He didn't have, and I'm susceptible to it. You know, I have allergy and asthma problems. I have respiratory problems. Went in there and immediately got sick. You know, in my home, we have air and water filtration, and I'm always fine. As soon as I went to my buddy's house and he didn't have it, and he's got the money to do it. I don't know why he doesn't have it. Nonetheless, I got sick right away. Joneswater.com for all of your air and water filtration needs, whether it's home or business, doesn't matter. If you're going to take care of your family, you got to drink clean water and you got to breathe fresh air. It's just that simple. You'll be the filter or you'll buy the filter. Joneswater.com. If you want to do business with Everett in Missouri, St. Charles County, Lincoln, Franklin, Warren, St. Louis, and Jefferson. If you're on the Illinois side of the river, Madison, Monroe, Jersey, and St. Clair, you'll be the filter or you'll buy the filter. Joneswater.com. They have dehumidifiers, everything you need to keep your home crisp and clean with air and water. It is joneswater.com. Again, with a phone number 636-899-1040. Been around since 1995. Again, I cannot express enough. We only do business with people we align with. That's it. We think it's important that you have fresh air and fresh water in your home. That's why we want Everett Jones as a part of the family. And he's been gracious to us. I know his business has been very good over the last couple of years because people are starting to recognize they cannot drink tap water in the year 2026 and hope to be healthy. Joneswater.com, 636-899-1040, 636-899-1040, joneswater.com. And then we got to get in my man, Tony Clark, with Valvoline Express Care. When it's time for an oil change, it might be time. Look down at that odometer. You might be listening to us on your car radio. You might be listening on your phone. You might be listening on your computer. But when you get in that car, and that check engine light comes on and it's time for an oil change, every time you see that check engine light, every time you think oil change, every single time you think oil change, it is Valvoline Express Care. Valvoline Express Care. If you need coupons, Valvoline-expresscare.com, Valvoline-expresscare.com. If you don't have that sticker in your window, Isaiah, how in the world can we possibly be friends? They have locations in, I'll just read them off, Isaiah. You don't have to put them out. Highland, Illinois, Troy, Illinois, Warrenton, Missouri, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, St. Peters Parkway, Lee May Ferry Road. Do I have them all pop up there? Let's see if I got those off the top of my head. I got it pretty good there.
It's a good. We should start quizzing you now.
Mid Rivers Mall, St. Peters Parkway, Highland, Illinois, Cape Girardeau, Missouri, Troy, Illinois, Lee May Ferry Road, and Warrenton. I think I got them all. So it's time for an oil change. It is Valvoline-Express Care. Tony Clark and his family have been great to us. It's just a wonderful place to get an oil change. They pride themselves on just being happy, efficient, quick, no appointments, no sales pressure. Valvoline Express Care, our good friend Tony Clark. When it's time for an oil change, get out there and check them out. And then I had lunch yesterday with my man, Rich McQuay. I'm going to set him up with some people that I think will really help his business. RackCustomCoatings.com. Here's a guy that's been doing this since 2001. Now, this is for industrial spaces, schools, anytime you need flooring, and you're not going to put in wood floors, you're not going to put in tile floors. You just think garage flooring for the most part. It is RackCustomCoatings.com. The guy's an artist. The flooring is absolutely spectacular. Rich McQuay for industrial space. This is what he says to me anyway. We install industrial strength, long lasting coatings built to handle anything your home or business can throw at them. And from garages to commercial spaces, Rack Custom Coatings delivers tough, beautiful finishes that last. He's an artist with flooring, and he's been at it for a long time. And he's just a great guy. Been very good to us. RackCustomCoatings.com, RackCustomCoatings.com. You can reach him at 636-398-5040. I know Lori and Greg, good friends of the show, they just had their garage done. I had it done. It does change the game. I want to appeal to men right now that have the garage man cave, right? If you have the garage man cave and you want to really tap that baby off and make it look nice so you don't have oil stains in your garage, you don't have the cobwebs in the corner and it looks like a funk job. If you want to have a really nice garage, get your flooring done. Not expensive, and boy, does it change the curb appeal of your home. Especially, I got to get Debbie Genus involved as well. RackCustomCoatings.com, RackCustomCoatings.com, 636-398-5040. Then let's do Carrington Financial. That's who I was talking to last night for quite some time. My man, Rick Babbitts. Rick Babbitts. This is my man when it comes to finances. He is absolutely brilliant. And when I talk to him, I get captivated by him. That's why I wanted to have him on the show on Tuesdays at 11, because he can talk history all night long. That's Lionel Richie.
I know that one.
Yes, sir. Rick Babbitts, 314-671-0525. If you have not gotten his opinion about your finances, you should. Get a second, get a third, get a fourth opinion. Does not matter, but get Rick Babbitts' opinion. 314-671-0525. He is a financial planning expert. He's a fiduciary, and he's on this program every Tuesday at 11 o'clock if you want to get a peek at him. But when it's time to check out your financial situation, you got to get a hold of Rick Babbitts at yourcaringadvisor.com, 314-671-0525. All right, let's bring in my man, Ben. We've been friends for quite some time. Ben has been around the political scene in Missouri forever, and I think he is helping the Missouri government write their legislation on Bitcoin. And boy, did he took a chunk out of my ass when I said, I think this Bitcoin thing might not be all it's dreamt up to be. He said, Rob, that's not fair. You mentioned my name. You got to get me on your show. And there he is with a new haircut, looking good. What's going on,
Rob? I'm so happy to join you. You know, I was with you. We did a couple of podcasts when we were down in Phil's studio in Chesterfield.
Right. At the beginning.
Yes. At
the very beginning. And you have been friends. I think we share a little bit of the same mindset on how the world works, right? I think you've been around a long time. Who was the guy that you were in, the presidential candidate that you were really enamored with back in the day?
Pat Buchanan.
Pat Buchanan.
Yeah,
Why?
I worked in that
Buchanan.
campaign. That kind of got me going. But, you know, Rob, I think we were going to try to do 11 o'clock today, but I'll tell you what, when I'm listening to Act for Missouri, Amy and Mike,
aren't they great?
Absolutely fantastic. And before we really get going, I want to shout out to Isaiah. He's got to leave at noon. Isaiah, you're gold for Rob. Absolutely. And
don't tell him that. He's already asking for a raise.
But you're on is it the St. Clair City Council?
Sir. Yes, sir.
You know, I wish I would have gotten started younger than I did, seriously about politics, because, you know, that's what it's going to take. And I learned from Phyllis Schlafly back in the day that, you know, all politics is local. And you can't just jump in a presidential campaign. That's where all the excitement is. And, you know, state politics, you gotta grow up in the game, and you've got to learn the players. And so, you know, kudos to what you're doing. And I think that's great work. And
it was unfortunately, you know, Charlie Kirk being killed that really gave me the last kick in the pants. And I wish it wasn't that, but that was really the last straw for me. Because I was already pretty outspoken with people in my life, but not necessarily publicly. And that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I'm getting to know him a little bit, Ben. I'm getting to know Isaiah just a little bit, you know, because he's the same age as my son. So, you know, it's kind of that fatherly. I'm watching him work, and he's a lot like I was, a lot like my son is. If you disrespect Isaiah, he does not take that lightly. And I always think that, you know, people that are smart, and not that he's, you know, come back and punch in the face or anything, but he's not going to let you bully him around. And I think, you know, when you have principled like that and you believe in your opinion like that, yet you're willing to listen to everybody's opinion, that's where the political environment needs to head. You know, people like Isaiah, if I was to extrapolate this out for the next 20, 25 years, I would assume that if Isaiah wants to have a big time political career, you could watch him grow and grow and grow, because Isaiah will listen to both sides. His opinion is not made in advance, and he doesn't stick to an opinion that doesn't work for him. He's got a biblical background, and he's very smart, and he has a lot of life experience. So I would expect that over time you'll probably see his political career mushroom, because I think he's going to do great things in St. Clair, because he says, Rob, I just want to listen to what people want. If I disagree with them, I want to tell them why I disagree with them, and I want to create a platform where we can communicate. And I thought, man, that's exactly what politicians are supposed to be thinking, at least for me. So I'm very proud to have Isaiah as a part of the show, obviously.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think Isaiah's got a long, great future in the game. And I call it a game.
It's a game, it's sorts.
You know,
the gulag.
I was a latecomer to Charlie Kirk and his organization. I helped some local guys develop a chapter at UMSL. And, you know, that thing fell apart pretty quick based on, you know, what we've seen since Charlie's assassination, and what's gone on with his wife, and the direction that it took, and the whole, you know, what's going on with the Israel narrative. But, you know, I'm not on here to talk about all that, but.
Well, you should have you on though, Ben. I was going to say that, you know, I really enjoy talking to you. You're somebody that I enjoy talking to. So I'm going to bring you on the show a little bit more. You have a lot more experience in the political game than I do. And I think that you and I share the same opinions, but yours are probably a little bit more evolved than mine. I think that's why, you know, I was a good radio talk show host, is because I just had an opinion, and I was willing to have anybody challenge it that wanted to challenge it, because I don't really know, you know, like I said, I still got into state politics 3 years ago. I mean, I'm a novice when it comes to what's going on in state politics, but I'm like Isaiah. I like to understand. I don't like feeling stupid. I don't like it when people have more information than me. So I try to get as much as I can out of, you know, the format that we have. So I'll bring you on the show more often, but give me Bitcoin, because he's only got 10 minutes. And if you want to come back because we cut you short today, we'll do it. I'm just going to shut up and let you, where did I get Bitcoin wrong? And in a summary, way, tell us why you think Bitcoin is important, and then I'll have you back on.
And you know, I'm not Rob. You know, you and I became fast friends. I mean, yes. In 15 minutes from the time I met you, and we did that first podcast.
Yep.
We knew we connected. We're on the same wavelength. But you know, Bitcoin is the answer to a problem, and that problem is our money is broken. You know, I wore my Buck the Fed t-shirt today because pretty much the reason I'm who I am goes back to the assassination of JFK. In 1962, I was 5 years old. I'm a peak boomer. So in October, I'm going to be 69 years old. And one of my very earliest memories is all the commotion in our household the day that Kennedy was shot. And, you know, it was crazy.
Made an impression.
It made a deep impression on me. And some of my next memories are my mother telling me, or talking to other adults. Oh, you know, Oswald's a patsy. You know, Ruby was put in there to kill him, and he had that fast acting cancer. They gave him my mother was a conspiracy theorist.
She was right.
She was dead on. And so that set the stage. And I talk about my Uncle Bud, who, you know, at 10 years old in 1967, my Uncle Bud is taking silver quarters and dimes and halves and silver dollars out of circulation and giving them back dollars. The bank, we would go to the bank and he would get, you know, a sack of quarters.
Genius.
And we would sift through them because, you know, clad had come around by then. Quarters had gone down to 40% silver, and they were silver on the outside and yep. Junk metal, whatever it was.
Did. Yep.
And so we would sift through and he would, you know, get all the silver out. And I'm like, what's going on? What are you doing this? And he explained to me, he said, well, the government's cheating. He said, silver is worth more. $1 worth of silver is worth more than $1. So they can't keep putting 90% silver quarters out there, calling it $1. So I started to understand at 10 years old inflation and the debasing of currency. So, you know, I carried that through. You know, Uncle Bud, you know, he broke out the stock market game by the time I was 13 or so. And all I ever wanted to do was to study finance and economics and become a stockbroker, which I did. But all the while, you know, in college studying, I took some advanced graduate level economics courses. And I would tell the professors, this creation of money thing, this reserve, fractional reserve banking, they're creating money out of nothing. How is this fair? And they print money out of thin air. And these guys, some of these professors I had, they'd been down this road before me, certainly. And they said, well, you got to read this book or that book, and so, right off the bat, up through to the time I got out of the military, spent 4 years at UMSL, became a stockbroker. In 96, jumped in right in the middle of the Pat Buchanan campaign for president. That's where I met Phyllis Schlafly. I was already involved with the John Birch Society. I was running a chapter in Creve Coeur.
I just joined, by the way, last year.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Man, back in those days, we took so much heat for being Birchers. We were the crazies and just, made out to be crazy. But all of the conspiracy theories over the years, going back to, currency. So, the Federal Reserve, I can remember getting in arguments when I was in college, one specifically with a vice president of a local bank. And he didn't believe that the Federal Reserve was a private bank, and now that's pretty well known that that's a private bank. And for us to, abandon the Constitution, which defines money, defines a dollar, and what we've done to our currency, our money over 100 years, where the dollar, that fiat piece of trash paper you carry around, it has a purchasing power of 97% less than what it did before the Federal Reserve was founded. So, that all made me who I am. I've worked in politics since 1972. It was nearly 55 years ago, in Richard Nixon's campaign. So in high school, I went down to the CREEP headquarters, the Committee to Reelect the President. And down at CREEP, I would hand address envelopes, lick stamps, and stuff them with, Nixon propaganda and mail that out. And I've been involved ever since. But 96, when Pat Buchanan came around, I thought, my goodness, this guy, he's saying the things that I believe. And we got behind him in Missouri. You
got pictures with him. I saw your pictures.
Yeah, sure. It's you can't see, it's in my background back there. I got it in a frame. Pat came to St. Louis. We had rallies. We ended up upsetting the apple cart in Missouri dramatically with that win for Pat at the caucus. And we delivered more Republican delegates to the national convention that year for Pat Buchanan than any other state. And that really set me. And that's, during that campaign is when I met Phyllis. And she told me, this is fun. We do this every 4 years, but really where the action is, you need to go back to Chesterfield and get in Chesterfield politics, learn the game from the ground up, which I did. I've been elected in Chesterfield to their charter commission. I helped write a charter that was thoroughly defeated. It was a little too resident friendly. We wanted to get beyond operating under the statutes of the state of Missouri, which you can do if you have a charter city. But it was a little too resident friendly. And big money interests came in and slapped us around, the amateurs that we were, and we were thoroughly defeated in that effort. But I was 5 years served as 5 years on the Board of Police Commissioners here in Chesterfield. I got reinvigorated with President Trump's.
Did you open up a Trump campaign? Trump?
We operated the only brick and mortar Trump headquarters in the country. The Republican Party didn't want anything to do with candidate Trump, no more than they wanted anything to do with Pat Buchanan. And, by the time
you're not going to be able to get into Bitcoin because we're not going to have time for you.
No, of course not.
But get back tomorrow. But I want to ask you about this because I'm really curious how you see Trump now. Because my thing with Trump is I'm not abandoning ship on Donald Trump, but I'm very skeptical of some of the things that he's doing, and I'm curious how you feel about it because you and I were both big Trump fans at one time, and I don't know if if you're starting to go, wait a minute, what's going on around here? Or do you see the genius behind it, as many do, that I don't quite see yet? But again, I'm not a genius.
And even just to follow up on that, I don't know if you've seen the gold coin that just was released from President Trump that they're about to start circulating, the $1 gold coin. So you mentioning all these finances and the
$1.
currency, I was curious what you think about that as well. You don't have to answer today. I know Rob said you can come on tomorrow, but that's something I'm very curious about.
I heard there was going to be a gold coin. Does it have Trump's face on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
I'll have to have one.
He had a Trump crypto coin too. That was a $1 billion plus scam.
Yeah, that's what that kind of stuff. He gave me pause. That's what I'll say.
You know, and I'll tell you what, when we talk to people about Bitcoin, Bitcoiners like myself, and I consider myself a maximalist, we talk about orange pilling. So in 2024, late 2024, I began orange pilling Ben Keithley. And
orange pilling, you would say, is informing him about Bitcoin.
Yeah, like, you know,
don't get into it, because he's going to leave, and then we're not going to have a show. Yeah, I'll have you on tomorrow. Can you come back tomorrow?
Friday? Yeah, I'd love to, Rob. I'd love to be a regular guest, because I've got so much to talk about.
I'm okay with that. I mean,
and, you know, we can do that. But tomorrow,
the MMTLP community asked for a finance guest to be on regularly outside of Rick Babbitt's that talks about other finance stuff. So that'd be very interesting.
And just political history. I can bring you in. What I like to do is have panels. I want to get to that point to where when we're talking about topics of the day, you don't have to even be on that topic, just to get your initial opinion to what we're talking about, and, you know, just have a little panel discussions, because I think it'll be good. Right now, I'm at my son's house, right? So I'm not in my normal surroundings. We're trying to find a studio in St. Louis. We want to put a studio together to where if we want to have an interview with a shaker and baker, right? Somebody that will, you know, draw eyes to what we're doing. I want to have a set studio, and we had some people that donated money. We have the camera systems. We have everything to go. I just have to find a studio where we can bring in an out-of-town guest and fly them in here and have a conversation with them and make it look nice and pretty, so it feels very professional. That's the next step for us. And I want to have panel discussions on those conversations. I want to have them. I want to have people that have been around the political arena for a long time, and I want to get their opinions in real time, because I have very strong opinions. But I think you know as well as I do. You've known me long enough, Ben, to know that I don't hate people that disagree with me. They sometimes hate me. I mean, I get a lot of people that really get pissed off with me. It may be my presentation. I'm a little sarcastic, but I just want to hear what people have to say about certain things, and I want to show them where I'm coming from. That's the beauty. So that's why Isaiah, when he starts putting up these clips and stuff, I can really prove I shouldn't say prove, justify where my opinion's coming from, and you can accept it or not. That's
Rob, when you get rid of hate in your heart,
yes,
and you show forgiveness, it's freedom, and it's so peaceful. And to get to my age, I'll be 69 in October. Nice. And man, I wish I would have figured out so much more than I did later in life. I like your father, I got sober this October will be 18 years, and another big change in my life that helped straighten me up, buddy, for sure. But yeah, regarding Trump, to wrap up like that, you know, you and I recall it like yesterday, that first 15-minute discussion, we talked about our concern that Trump hadn't come clean over promoting the vaccine.
And that was what, 3 years ago?
Well, it was, you know, time
2 years ago.
Well, it was probably longer than that. It was whenever you were doing the podcast down in the valley before you went to Tracy.
3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years. That sounds about right. But anyway, I'm the Bitcoin policy advisor for Ben Keithley. I helped him write the bill that he introduced in 2025. It never got out of committee. The committee hearing was a joke. It reintroduced the bill with some tweaks. We had Vivek Malik behind the bill in this past session. Got a committee hearing in the Commerce Committee, and had a co-signer. But, you know, to establish a Bitcoin reserve for the state of Missouri, when Ben put that bill out pre-filed it in the 2025 session, Missouri became the fifth state to file legislation to create a state strategic Bitcoin reserve. And we got international press on that. And
I remember.
Ben became the Bitcoin guy in Missouri, you know. And so you got
to explain how the whole thing runs. Because Isaiah, do you understand Bitcoin very well? He might have left us already. He does that on occasion.
No, sorry, I was muted. No, sorry, I was muted. I understand.
On every now and again, Ben.
I understand the idea of that it's a decentralized currency, so that it can be non-regulated is essentially what I understand the initial.
It's a ledger of sorts.
Yeah, the initial, I guess, goal, right, of Bitcoin was to be something that's an unregulated currency that is for the people, really, right, instead of for the government.
And don't answer, Ben, because I got a lunch date too with one of our friends. Another one. In fact, Ben, you might want to join us.
But I would like to hear if that's a misunderstanding too, though. I would want to know.
Well, Satoshi, and we won't get into Satoshi and what that was all, who that person maybe is, but the white paper was
Bitcoin, supposedly, right?
Satoshi dropped the white paper on October 31st of 2008, and we were rolling right into the great financial crisis, and basically, the headline of that, it's Bitcoin, capital B, the network, Bitcoin, is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So when you take a $10 bill out of your wallet and you give it to somebody for whatever, that's a peer-to-peer transaction, but it's fiat. And when you do a Bitcoin transaction, me to you, Rob, I think I sent you some Bitcoin to show you how that worked.
Yep, you did.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to get to it now, but you gave me a Bitcoin wallet. You get the whole thing going on. I got like $8 in there.
You've got a Moon wallet. And so, yeah, I sent you that Bitcoin from me to you with no intermediary, no bank, no president of nothing. It was just me to you over the internet directly. I sent you value. I sent you Bitcoin that carries a value. So, this gets into the whole discussion of what money is, and to understand money is difficult.
It was more anonymous too, right?
Well, when you say anonymous and people get hung up on that, every Bitcoin transaction is recorded, and those blocks of record are locked up every 10 minutes. A block is created, and all the transactions during that 10 minutes are recorded on the block, on the ledger. It's a giant ledger in cyberspace. And so the transaction itself doesn't say it came from Ben Murphy over to Rob. It's got a big, long address to it. So Bitcoin is it's anonymous to that extent. But there are ways to find out who has what wallet. Satoshi mined the first million Bitcoin.
And when you say mined a Bitcoin, what does that mean? Is it a physical thing?
There are nodes. A node is just a computer. So I have a Bitcoin node and have ran it for years at my home. And that node runs the Bitcoin code. So
Bitcoin is code more than anything. It's just a code.
It is completely code.
Gotcha.
So, when I first heard about Bitcoin in, I guess, very early 2010, I thought, wow, could this really be the answer, the perfect money? Could this be the answer to the Federal Reserve? And so I set up my son-in-law and I, and he's a brilliant computer engineer. I said, we can get awarded Bitcoin by mining it on the network, by running the Bitcoin code, and we set that up. And so we mined 2 or 3 Bitcoin, and I was off on a California business adventure, out of town for some months. And while I was out of town, my daughter and son-in-law had a conversation. He said, "Yeah, this thing's just buzzing away, and he said, we've got, a couple Bitcoin, they're worth about 20 cents a piece. And we probably spent more money in electricity doing this than the Bitcoin is worth." So my daughter unplugged the machine, and, when I came back and they said, "Oh yeah, we unplugged that, it's not worth it. It's wasted." And I really didn't understand Bitcoin at that point. So I let it go. It wasn't a big deal, man, we were scrambling to find that Bitcoin when it hit 10 grand. But everybody's got a Bitcoin story if you've been in it for a long time. And I've got tons of Bitcoin stories. And, we would hope to file a bill in the coming session and tighten up some problems. But, we're up against the bankers, and those guys, control all the funds that are in reserve in Missouri, and they've got a tremendously strong lobby. There are only 3 states that currently have a state Bitcoin reserve. This is Arizona, New Hampshire, and Texas. Of course, Texas, they've got a strategic Bitcoin reserve. But, they got real hot, and those bills were passed and signed by their governors in 2025 when Bitcoin was running up to 100 grand, to 126. And
what is it now, 80?
No, it's probably closer to 60, 65,
Really?
maybe.
Because I got over 100 for a while.
And I always hear from my people, my friends, when Bitcoin is crashing, and it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, see, I told you that was junk. And, I heard that when Bitcoin went from 100 to 3, and I heard it again when Bitcoin went from 1,000 to a couple hundred. And, Bitcoin runs in 4-year cycles. It's like clockwork. And we're at
That's what one of my CEOs told me.
Yeah, well, sure. I mean, look at the charts, zoom out. So the last run up hit about $126,000. Man, that was fun. Everybody was, retail was piling in, FOMOing, fear of missing out. They were, and we see this happen. And then, they get disappointed, and it goes down 10, 20%. And they, oh, this is junk, and I'm selling my Bitcoin. Well, to me, Bitcoin is
I got some buddies that made big money on Bitcoin.
It's a store of value, man.
Yeah, they bought early and they held on to it, and they were telling me that was crazy.
I have someone that built a $10 million house in Florida off Bitcoin.
Yeah, I got a buddy that made a ton of money. I mean,
no, there's plenty of people, that made tons of money on Bitcoin. But if you want to do your grandkids and their children a favor, Bitcoin is the code is written to last over 140 years. So this is going to go on for a long time. Now, some people say, no, it's going to go to zero. Peter Schiff, who's the son of Erwin Schiff. Erwin wrote The Federal Mafia, published the Federal Mafia, and one of the only banned books in America ever. The IRS said Erwin cost the IRS billions of dollars for people not complying with the so-called voluntary income tax. And the government put Erwin in prison, and he died in prison at 86 years old of cancer and was not allowed out to seek treatment. So I met Erwin. He signed a copy of his book for me at a political conference years ago. And, anything to keep the status where it's at. But this status of our monetary system, I believe, is coming to an end. And I've believed it for many years.
Everybody does.
And so what are we going to do? And there's a lot of theories out there. Some of it involves Bitcoin. China, China's made some amazing moves. They've stockpiled gold. And this July, China will cease operations of their selling futures contracts on gold. So effectively, in China, they will settle gold physically with physical gold, settle contracts with physical gold. And there, that gets into fairly deep economic and financial topics. But Morgan Stanley got the largest fine ever against them for rigging the gold market by selling futures contracts. You can sell gold, paper gold, that you don't have, but this dramatically affects price and all these.
Yeah, that paper gold was like the stocks, right? It's like the naked short selling. It's like you don't even have it, but you sell it.
Exactly. You don't have it, but you can sell it. How does that make sense? Well, China, 10 years ago, they published a paper and said, their banking, one of their banking executives said, we're gonna change this. And 10 years later, here we are. And this July, they will start. They've also encouraged the people to invest in gold. And I believe the Chinese have, so where in this country, all of our 401ks, everybody's in the S&P, and that's the majority of our money. Our retirement money is in the S&P, your 401ks and such. In China, it's gold.
I like gold.
So
All right.
So anyway, yeah, we can go on, and I'd love to.
I'll wind you up when you get into Bitcoin. For 10 hours.
I'd love to hear too more about if you know anything about like Ethereum and the other utilities and things like that. Not to get into, yeah,
but I want to ask you about XRP and all that the next time we talk. So you got to tell me.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll get you on.
We'll talk more about Bitcoin for sure.
I got to remind you, Ben,
and conspiracies.
Yeah, and conspiracy. We're going to have you on. I got to remind you that when it's time for lunch and you're in Washington, Missouri, it's Moe's Pizza.
Moe's,
It's Moe's Pizza. Moe's Pizza, a landmark. I don't know if you know this, but it's a landmark in Washington, Missouri, at the corner of Grand and 5th Street. As he tells me, he goes, Rob, God owns the place. I just work here. If you're in the area, you got to get to Moe's. Moe's is the place to be. So if you're in Washington, Missouri, if you're in Franklin County, get out to Moe's. Great family environment, great pizza and salad bar, chicken wings, sandwiches, ice cream. They got it all. Moe's Pizza, birthday parties. This is where they have banquet space available, I guess I should say, for birthday parties, anniversaries, political meetings, and Bible studies. Again, if you have any kind of gathering, get out to Moe's Pizza. They'll treat you like family. You'll love the environment. The kids love it. There's Mike and Brenda Johns right there. Great people, great environment, great business. Moe's Pizza, a landmark in Washington, Missouri. When it's time for lunch, get there. All right, Isaiah. All right, Ben. I love your shirt. I love your shirt. I love seeing you, man. We haven't seen each other in a while. I'll have you back on. I promise you, we'll get you back on. And if you want to be,
it doesn't have to be tomorrow, Rob.
Just tell me when you're ready, because we'll be ready next week. So just tell me when the time fits for you. And then if you want to be a part of panel discussions, I'm going to try and get about 6 or 8 people that are in the game in Missouri, so that when I'm doing either interviews with somebody, to have people come in afterward and comment on those interviews. If we have a topic that I think is interesting, that, it's like Kay Griggs. Nobody knows about Kay Griggs. I've listened to that 8 hours. I can't even tell you how many times I've listened to that, because it blows me away when you really listen to every word that she says throughout that 8-hour conversation, and you apply it to things that you see today. It's like you go, oh my God, what about this? And then it reminds you of that. And that was 30 years ago. And I think she was dead on the money. And like I said, she was just married to an intel officer in the military, and all this information was at her fingertips. She was quizzing him and taking notes on what he said for 30 years. And it's quite a story that she tells. I got to tell you, unbelievable. Anyway,
Rob, what I'm noticing from your show, your generation, Isaiah's generation, they're becoming aware of what we've called conspiracies since the 70s.
Right.
And, back then you didn't have the internet. The dawn of the internet was amazing for these topics, but you had to read it in books and newsletters, and it was all hush hush, and oh, these people are crazy. But like Lyndon LaRouche was one of the guys that talked about this kind of stuff.
You told me about him. I remember.
Yeah, he's you
said you were going to set me up with somebody who you thought would be a really good conversation for me. Who was it?
When I heard Rick talking about the British Empire is really still kind of in charge, and making moves, and people that think Trump is doing 5D chess, he's rearranging the chessboard geopolitically, and taking the legs out from under the British Empire. And this is all fascinating discussion. Who knows really?
He told me yesterday, when I was talking to him yesterday.
Yeah.
And I don't want to steal his thunder. He said, next time we talk, and I was on with him for an hour and a half last night. He said, I think there's going to be a civil war in Ireland before too terribly long, because of the immigration, the Islamic immigration.
Yeah. It
and
looks
all
like
the stories that are starting to drive people crazy over there about rapes, Muslim men on Irish women. And he said, it's about ready to go down over there. And I said, really? He goes, I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. I go, really? An actual civil war?
Well, yeah. My wife she took one of our groups on a cruise just a couple months ago, and one of their stops was Belfast. And, I told her, I said, I don't even go on these overseas anymore, but she had a group of 40 some people, and they were in Belfast, and no sooner than they got back on the ship from that day's touring of the city, there it is all over the news. They set Belfast on fire over, some immigrant murdering some kid. And so, I wouldn't doubt it. I think, I'm a believer in the fourth turning. I think we're right in the middle of it. And when this turning, if you know the theory, every 4 generations, everything changes.
Yep.
And
it's a great time to be alive.
Isn't it? It's just a fascinating time to watch all this stuff happen. And so, I've got, we started out and get sidetracked, but Trump.
You reach out to me.
I will. I'll reach out to you and we'll talk about that studio. I know you'd mentioned that to me before also.
Help me out with that. And
Rob, thanks for having me on. You've
tell
got
your lovely wife I said hello. I haven't seen her in a while.
I will do that. And Isaiah, if he's still on, great work.
Yes, sir.
I look forward to meeting you. And
Me too.
We'll
Rob,
get together soon.
carry on.
Thanks, brother.
All
Ben
right.
Murphy, everybody. We'll talk Bitcoin. Somebody said get him on 9 a.m. tomorrow, sure, because a lot of people that are interested in Bitcoin. And if I promote you better than I did this time, Isaiah's my boss, and he goes,
Come on.
Well, you are. You listen. If you're not going to promote the show, I can't really help you, Rob. You have to promote the show. And I get done with the show, I'm exhausted. I go eat lunch, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm hanging out with the family, and I look up, and it's like 8 o'clock at night. I'm like, I don't want to do it now, and I keep forgetting to promote the show. But if I promote it and people know we're going to talk Bitcoin, you'll have a lot of listeners because people are fascinated with Bitcoin and how it works and what it means. Because 90% of the population doesn't have any idea what Bitcoin is or how it works or what it means, the history of it, or anything else. And I know you do, so we'll get you on. Ben Murphy.
All right.
Have a great day, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Right on. Isaiah, a lot of accolades for you today. I got to calm all that down a little bit.
Man,
Not too much love for Isaiah here. What's going on? You got
John's going to love it.
One of my closest friends for 30-something years is giving you more love than me. It's not fair. Go spend some time with
all in love from what I'm seeing.
Oh yes, go spend some time with your family. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. What do I got tomorrow? Let me see if
I haven't heard anything specific on Friday. I don't think.
Yeah,
actually, I think
Brad Patty coming on tomorrow.
Really, we got him on.
I think what happened with is he on tomorrow? Yeah, Brad Patty's on tomorrow, and Elad Gross, one of my favorite Democrats, is on at 10:30. And then we got Brad Patty on at 11. And the one Brad Patty reached out to me, wanted to come back on. I think it's funny, and I'm just curious. I don't know this. But between me and you before the show ends, I think we asked Brad Patty some questions that I don't think he had thought through. That's my gut. And I think he had time to go back and look at that and go, I never really thought of these things because he was in the military. He's a military guy. You liked him, didn't you? I thought he was.
Oh my gosh, he was the only guy, right, who didn't rush into giving a speech.
Very calm, very disciplined.
That just stood out to me. That's all.
It's the only message that he gave that I understood. I mean, the message that and John Grady, I thought was really good too. Our own John Grady was really good. John always goes, "What do you think of this?" I said, "John, just do your thing. You're great at it." But Brad Patty, the reason I liked him was his message was, "Here's my experience, and here's why my experience is better than a traditional politician who's been at this game forever. If you're looking for this, if you're looking for this, if you're looking for this, this is my military background, and this is why I'd be good for the job." And I remembered it. It's the one that stuck out to me, and I thought it was great. So we'll have Brad.
He's adopted too. That's something we bonded on in our conversation.
I didn't even know that.
I believe he's adopted.
Yes, he did. He did tell me that. That's right. He did. That's right. All right. So we'll have Brad Patty and Elad Gross. Have you been on?
Oh yeah, we've been on with Elad. Yeah.
Elad's I want to have more Democrats on because I'm just curious their point of view on certain issues. I don't want to
ask him about Jeffrey Winehouse.
I will. Well, it's one of the main reasons I want to have him on. But Elad is entertaining. He's very bright. He ran for attorney general and in the Democrat Party against Scharf. That was when Scharf was running and that whole group. And he did debates all around Missouri with him. And I like him. I just think he does a great job he goes out onto LinkedIn and he talks about all the issues that are before the Missouri government. And he does it in like 3 minutes. And I said to him, do you practice that like 75 times? Because like, boom, 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 boom. He goes, no, but it does take me a couple, 3 times. I'm like, man, that's pretty good to run through 10 issues and not skip a word in 3 minutes. It's quite a talent. But anyway, Elad Gross, he's an attorney. He ran for attorney general on the Democrat side in Missouri. He's a friend of the show. He'll be on at 10:30. We'll have Brad Patty, who's running against, I think the big name is Rick Bratton.
Yep.
Running against Senator Rick Bratton for the U.S. House of Representatives. So we'll have both of those guys on tomorrow. And
big announcement tonight with President Trump, 7:30 Central PM. Tune in.
We will review what Donald Trump had to say tomorrow morning. That's where the show's going to go. Elections is our baby. So he's going to talk about elections tonight, probably talk about the war with Iran, might even bring up Israel. Who knows what he's going to talk about, but he's talking about elections for sure. We'll recap that first thing tomorrow morning.
If you want to know about the National Defense, we wanted to get into the NDAA more today, but we just had so many people. I wrote an article. You can check it out on my X profile, kind of outlining everything of the current status of where we're at, because the Senate did pass the NDAA, but they're going to have to come together with the House once they pass it. They've not passed the NDAA. They've passed something called House Resolution 8595, which is an appropriations, which does it. They are
funds embassies and
and it does fund part of it, right? But that's not the actual. Section 219 hasn't passed yet, and that's what people are worried about. Is Section 219 that is technically not passed yet in the House, and so don't get worked up. I know that the media is kind of stirring because the Senate passed it, and then we did have the 85-95 pass, which is funding, but the House resolution is 8800. You can look it up. That is not passed yet. So we can still call our congressman. Call your congressman.
Hey, I gotta ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I have people texting me that are saying that I have commercials running on our live show on Rumble.
Oh yeah, we do.
I didn't know they were on live. I thought live you could watch it clear, and then on the repeats you would get the.
Yeah, I don't get commercials on the live stream.
He said they got them. I said,
Yeah,
"Are you sure?" He said, "Robbie." He goes, "As I'm watching, you just had another commercial just now." So I got 2 people texting me saying that commercials are running during the live show.
Sounds like you guys need to subscribe. Then sounds like you guys need to subscribe. It's not our problem.
Like a terrible person. He doesn't mean that. We love everyone that listens.
Yeah, I love you guys, but that's the only we can't do it. I mean, I don't know why you guys are mentioning.
I've never had that happen to me either. I've never
there's nothing that we can
where when it was live that had commercials. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, me neither.
Oh, good Lord! One more obstacle to jump over. Anyway,
well, it's nothing we can do about it. If you don't want commercials. If you don't want commercials on YouTube, you don't want commercials on Rumble, you don't want commercials on Netflix. You know all these things.
I don't want commercials. Period.
You got to subscribe.
That's right. All right, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on the Rob Carter Show. Isaiah, we'll see you soon, brother.
See ya.
All right, buddy.